And Plesac in search of career save number 150. Blue Jays looking to get 2 games over the 500 mark and win their 5th in a row. And they've done it. He went around, and Plesac gets the job done, and he's pretty pumped as he strikes out of Velarde, and the Blue Jays run their winning streak to 5. The final score here tonight is the Blue Jays 4 and the Angels 3. The player of the game for the Blue Jays on behalf of Standard Auto Glass is Jose Cruz Jr., whose 2-run single in the bottom of the 8th gave the Blue Jays a 1-run lead. Final score, Blue Jays 4, Angels 3. Let's go back to the studio. Here's Rod Smith.
Thank you, Dan, and welcome to McMahon Stadium in Calgary. It's the Stampeders and Alan Pitts with the football. Across the Saskatchewan 40, 30, could go. Alan Pitts, first play of the drive, and down to the Roughriders' 4-yard line. The game just got underway, and I'm joined by Glenn Studer. And Glenn, this is just the way Calgary wanted to start this football game.
Yeah, when you're at home, you want to come out and start quickly, and Alan Pitts takes advantage of a bust, and the Riders secondary gets in behind the coverage, is wide open. Obviously a mental mistake by the Saskatchewan Roughriders to start this football game, and Pitts takes off early.
A gain of 62 yards, and just like that, we start the game with the Stamps knocking at the door. They beat Saskatchewan in overtime last week at Taylor Field, looking to make it 2 straight, while the Green Riders have lost 3 games in a row. Garcia rolling out to his right, looking end zone. And no good. Falling incomplete for 2nd down and goal. The offense, Stampeders, led, of course, by this guy who had a game. Jeff Garcia did last week in the field, and just a wide array of talented receivers, too. And up front, Paco Romano at left. Well, hear of that. The statesman, if you will, on not only the line, but on this Stampeder team. So it's goal now, the 5-yard line. Calgary looking to make an early statement here with 3 receivers to the left and 2 more to the right. Garcia's looking left. End zone, touchdown. Vince Danielson has the Stamps on the board early.
Well, Vince Danielson's going to want to play against the Saskatchewan Riders every single game. Last week he had his first 100-yard game of his career, which is quite surprising. Vince Danielson gets on the board early with the touchdown.
Danielson was asked about his 100-yard game last week and said no joking, of course, when you got a teammate like Alan who's done it 51 CFL record. He had kind of the shucks mentality, but he is so valuable to that Stampeder offense this year.
Well, they both have. Alan Pitts, we saw, had the first play in the drive, him down there, and then finishes it off.
It's sure already Alan Pitts is on his way to 100-yard game with 62 in that first catch and the convert by Mark McLaughlin. Good. So the Stamps on the board, 7-0. Last week, in week 6 at Taylor Field, Calgary won the game in OT as we look at his touchdown again.
Yeah, that's right now. Vince Danielson takes advantage of a pick play, or what offense is called a rub play. Tyrell Ulmer and Shannon Garrett got caught up in the pick, and Danielson breaks out in the open, and that's just the way you write them up.
And Glenn, you were here 2 weeks ago when they lost to the Argos, and the Bluebirds had come out for Jeff Garcia, and he answered them this week when he went 33 of 44. So look at what Vince Danielson did last week. The first mention, he went over 100 yards in receiving, although he'd been 2 times.
And that made a lot of people, including yours truly, take the double take. When everyone was saying his first 100-yard game, I was like, wow. Surprising, because he's got a big game. Stampeders hasn't crossed that 100-yard.
In his 5th season, former quarterback with the UBC Thunderbirds. There's McLaughlin about to kick off, who went 3 for 3 in field goals last week, taking some of the heat off his shoulders, and kicking off to Profale Greer. 3-injury list last week, and return up the middle. Greer over the 40, approaching midfield. He gets up to the Saskatchewan 51. A 45-yard return. Look at the giving the Stampeders the early lead in this ballgame.
It didn't take very long with the big Allen 62-yard kick, start things off, taking advantage of the bust of the secondary. But credit Saskatchewan Roughriders. Greer snatched them right back the ball at midfield. Saskatchewan.
So now we'll see green and white offense go to by Reggie Slack in his finest season he's played so far. And he Goes to shot away. Throws. Got Baker, who has not got anything but lost yardage. A loss of 6 yards to start things for Saskatchewan. Alondra Johnson in there.
What a start to the season for Alondra Johnson. Already has 3 sacks. And he'll be chasing Reggie Slack for a lot of the night. Here's a guy that's had a whole lot of success running the football against the Calgary Stampeders.
Reggie Slack last week, 25 of 45. He had 341 yards. This team is pass happy. They love to throw the ball, and they've done it well. They just haven't cashed in that many times. Big pressure right away, and Slack is down. Anthony McClanahan. Never at all embarrassed about strutting his stuff after a big play. Does it again. And another loss. Saskatchewan to be punting.
Well, Reggie Slack has no chance to throw this ball down the field. His receivers really haven't even got into the break of their patterns when Anthony McClanahan is right in his face. Sean Daniels was designed to come across and pick McClanahan up on the blitz, and he didn't get there in time. Reggie Slack had no chance to deliver that football.
So these offenses have gone in different directions so far in this game. Calgary almost instantly gets to the end zone. Saskatchewan moving backwards on this first set of downs, and they'll be punting. It's Paul McCallum punting for the second straight week after they released Wayne Lamley. And down there to take it is Marvin Coleman at the 25. Coleman gets across the 35 to about the 37-yard line. It looked so easy in the first drive. We'll see what Calgary has in store when they get the ball back. And Stampeders had a beautiful start. The second lead. Their second possession. Garcia rolling to his throw again. Complete. Travis up near first down territory.
Well, this is a big, big game for talking to him. He said his team has played well enough to win, but the fact of the matter is they've lost their last.
Wally Blunt winning his coach history. Calgary Stampeders, and a pretty good record, as you can see, against Twin Roughriders that win number 17 last week in Regina. And I see down territory. It is a first down measure for it. Across the 45-yard line, about the 47 of nothing going so far early in this game for Juano Garcia. Garcia threw 3 touchdown passes last week, and more importantly, no interceptions. He is clearly number 2. If there were any doubters, the way the very capable Dickinson has played, is the hand to Kelvin Anderson down, and not much of a gain. A loss of 2 yards on.
Well, our defense is led by third up front, Dwayne and Ernie Brown, of course, former Roughriders, and Dion returns to the lineup last week. In the secondary, Tyrell Ulmer will start safety. Eric Sutton filling at the corners, and it's Garrett.
Call it a loss of 1 yard. 10 and 11. The Stamps working at their 46-yard line, and the early lead. A shotgun with 4 to the right for Garcia. He might stop, but he steps up and nearly complete. But Vince Danielson, who has the touchdown in this game.
He would like that one back, but he really has to go away from Darnell Small, the linebacker. Small had got a pretty good drop. Starts to throw the ball away from him and try to lead his receiver, Vince Danielson, to the open area, and Danielson just couldn't get it just out of his reach.
It'll be 3rd down and 11 now, and for the first time we'll see Tony Martino standing at his 32 to get the leading punter in the Canadian football, and something that could be a factor in this game because statistically this one is the worst. The difference punting of about 10 yards. Special teams could factor in this one. Another spiral released by Martino. Crowfield takes it back inside his team. That's turned before on the kickoff and takes that one up across to about the 25-yard line. A return of 11 yards. Saskatchewan's offense, as mentioned before, very capable of moving the football. Reggie Slack has been fabulous, and he gets Baker back in the lineup after missing the last 2 games. Baker had a great game in Montreal and a loss to the Alouettes a few weeks ago. And up front, Gene Mikowski back in there at left guard. They have been juggling the offensive lineman now, but Ed King in there at left tackle filling in for John Terry. That is the only significant change from the way the Roughriders would like to have that line up front on offense. Flag in the play right away as it's handed off to Mike Saunders for a short gain.
On defense for Calgary, Ray Jacobs replaces Jeff Travesey for the second week in a row, and Alondra Johnson and McLennan and Hall will see a lot of Reggie Slack scrambling around again in this game tonight. And in the secondary, of course, Jackie Kellogg had the big play in overtime last week when he took back an interception for a touchdown to start things off for the Stamps.
And an offside call right to begin this game. Flag one out just as the snap went. And Jack Kellogg, the big play last week in overtime, the interception for a touchdown that essentially helped seal the victory for the Calgary Stampeders. 1st and 15 now. They went backwards in their last drive. Let's see what Slack can do this time. Throwing. Wants Curtis Mayfield, but off his fingertips to set up second down.
Well, Curtis Mayfield's running from the slot back position, and he is the big play player. You'll see number 89 from right on the hash mark. He's going to come right down the seam, right all the way across the field. Of course, last week Mayfield had the big touchdown. When the Riders need to go deep, they look for 89. He's averaging 17.8 yards per catch.
His longest 62 of the year. He's got 4 touchdowns on the year. Mayfield, the #1 big play target for this team. And they have thrived on big plays so far this season. Slack gets it away, and it is caught. But it is short of a first down. But look who has it. Don Narcisse, the streak. Glenn continues.
Well, Don Narcisse is chasing another one, and he's going to be going into this game 11 receptions away from passing his former teammate Ray Algard. And Don Narcisse had to make a big one there to keep his streak alive because he had coverage all over him. Marvin Coleman hit him right in the back, and he still came up with it. He has the softest hands in the game.
He sure does. 187 straight games now he's had a completion, far and away stretching that streak where it almost looks like no one could catch it. What a brilliant career he has had. And yes, approaching Ray Algard, the all-time CFL leader in receptions. Paul McCallum standing back to punt it away at his 18-yard line. A struggle for the green and white offense so far after 2 drives in this game. And it's a low driving kick. It takes a bounce. It is short. Coleman takes it. Good field position for the Stamps. We talked about that. Up near midfield. So Calgary automatically has about 15 yards improvement on that change of hands. Garcia to go to work again when we come back. And already has a catch tonight. His streak continues, and Glennie is getting closer to history.
Yeah, Don Narcisse 10 away from tying Ray Algard, 11 from beating the record, and right behind him is Alan Pitts. And this is what Alan Pitts did on the very first offensive play of the game for the Calgary Stampeders. Made a statement early.
Talk about historic receivers. He is 3rd in receptions behind Narcisse, as we saw. And he's 2nd in touchdowns and also in receiving yards. Also one of the best ever. Garcia gets it away brilliantly to Anderson. And what looked like a possible sack is close to first down territory again for Calgary.
Jeff Garcia is such a competitor. I mean, he's a guy that can make things happen and improvise. And that time when he was being pulled down, found a way to get it to Kelvin Anderson. I mean, he's such a great competitor and responded well to, like you mentioned, Rod, the boos earlier in the season, and just, hey, I can only control what I can control, and that's out on the football field, and he can definitely do a job up there.
It's incredible given what he has done. The fans would boo him, but I think a big part of that was, he said, how good the backup Dave Dickinson was. Garcia keeps it and has the Calgary first down. The drive continues now inside the Saskatchewan 45-yard line.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, most quarterbacks in that situation take the ball and fall forward. Jeff Garcia high steps it for a couple extra yards and takes a hit because of it.
And Wally Buono had said from the beginning there is no quarterback controversy here, even though 3 weeks ago Dave Dickinson threw for 5 touchdowns, backing up the injured Garcia in Winnipeg. They've got 2 great ones by the looks of things. Out of the shotgun, Garcia off to the sideline. It's complete. It's Terry Bond, and it's another Calgary first down. Let's get down to the sidelines. And Sherry Hargrave.
Well, Rod, this isn't how Regina wanted to start out. Last week, they got into a hole fast. They were down 17-1 early in the game, and that's a tough place to crawl out of. Traditionally, though, in back-to-back games, the team that loses the first game comes back and wins the second one. But keep in mind, the Riders haven't won at McMahon Stadium since 1989 in regular regular season.
All right, thank you. Yeah, 1989, October of 89, nearly 9 years ago. But they did have that big playoff win. Many Stamps fans, I'm sure, recall here at McMahon last year. Anderson takes the pass, and he gets up to the 25-yard line. And what Sherry was just speaking about, Saskatchewan not winning in the 90s in a regular season game. You know, I think there's a guy beside me who played in that game back in 89. Any memories?
Well, you know, I mean, Saskatchewan, if they look at history, they'll say we really have to win tonight because that was a pretty good year, 1989, when we won the Grey Cup. So they definitely want to win tonight for more than one reason.
And Jim Daly, I asked him before about the drought and also about the start of the season, and I asked him if he felt any inordinate amount of pressure, and he said, inordinate? No. You lose 3 straight, you do feel pressure. Garcia to throw to the shotgun. Over the middle. It's complete. It's Alan Pitts again. Pitts is having a great start to this game, and he gets it down to the 11-yard line, Saskatchewan. A gain of 13.
Jim Daly talked about the Calgary Stampeders having problems with their crossing routes, and Alan Pitts is going to come in. He'll see it zone and then just kind of gear it down at the hash mark, but you're going to see a lot of crossing routes from the Calgary Stampeders, and you're going to see a lot of zone defense because of that from the Riders.
Calgary had the great start at Taylor Field. In the first quarter, they had a 17-3 lead last week, and they're off to a good start here. In business again, up by 7. Garcia looks end zone right at the goal line. It's caught. Just about in. It's Travis Moore with the ball and another Stamps first down. It'll be 1st and goal.
Travis Moore has become a go-to guy for Jeff Garcia. He's come back and had a couple of game-winning touchdowns for the Stamps this year, and he's going to have to come back to the football. And the great receivers will always work their way back. You see the coverage was very tight by Todd McMillan, but Travis Moore keeps coming back, and that's what he's done on the season. 316 yards. He's on pace for just about 1,000.
That was a gain of 11, and Garcia is red hot to start this game. 8 for 10 for 129 yards. The latest one going to number 83 there, and Garcia and the Stamps are knocking on the door. 1st and goal from the Rider 1. Hands it off to Big Wayne Ford for the Calgary touchdown. Doesn't get to carry the ball very often. Only 1 carry so far this season heading into this, but that'll be memorable.
And his first touchdown. And anytime you score a touchdown, you probably keep that ball and put it in the trophy case. Well, they'll have to use it for the conference, then he'll get it and put it in the trophy case.
So that'll be 2 carries, 4 yards in the season, but hey, you count the touchdowns, don't you?
He gets that weight going for it. It's awful tough to stop him.
One of the great blocking backs in the CFL, and staying in to do some blocking for Mark McLaughlin's convert attempt here. Up and in, and a 14-point lead for the Stamps. All Calgary in this first quarter at McMahon. 14-0. Against Calgary. They dug out of it before. They're going to have to get out of it again for Daly to let's reduce that stress level a little bit.
Yeah, and Wally Wano with a great start is going to have to try and keep his team going for a whole 60 minutes. It's easy to sort of relax when you have the big lead early.
And McLaughlin kicks off again. Calgary's had the ball 3 times, and they've scored touchdowns on 2 of the possessions. Profile Greer on another return. And he works it outside, and he is ridden out of bounds by Alondra Johnson. A return of 23 yards after a 70-yard kick. The second scoring drive for Calgary, set up with a couple of brilliant passes, and then Dwayne Ford taking it over the top.
Yeah, Dwayne Ford only had to go 1 yard because Travis Moore had come up with a big catch right on the goal line. Getting just enough separation from Todd McMillan, and Garcia threw it right on the numbers.
So Reggie Slack will go to work for a 3rd time here. First 2 drives without any success at all. He goes to his left. He tries to take off, and he runs so well, but he's running nowhere this time. Darrell Hall ball is in on him, and he is down about the 30-yard line. One thing that they are very conscious about is how he runs the football. He ran it well there, although in overtime, Glenn, Calgary won it going away.
Yeah, they did. The big Kellogg interception we talked about. And Anderson, 3 touchdowns on the night. He had 2 through the air and 1 along the ground. But you were right. Reggie Slack had a good game rushing. Despite the loss, he had over 100 yards by himself.
Jack Kellogg taking that one in for the touchdown, and that made it an 8-point lead at that point in the first overtime half. Saskatchewan never ended up getting any points at all.
Up over the middle, complete. First big play for the Green Riders. Big first down to Mike Saunders.
Number 32, Mike Saunders coming out of the backfield.
Mike Saunders is such a great receiver coming out of the backfield that you can move him outside. There's Mike Saunders lined up as a receiver, a slot back. He recognizes his zone, gets around the jam from Daryl Hall. That's the key. He uses good technique to swim around Daryl Hall. Daryl Hall jams him in that seam. He can't get to be an open target for Slack, but he gets past him, gets in that open area.
And the first down of this game for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Gain of 30 yards. And they operate from the Stamps 50. They hand off and some short yardage up the middle for Profale Greer.
Well, they're happy to have Profale Greer back in the lineup, primarily for his return ability. He came into the game last week after missing the start of the season. In fact, all 5 games with a shoulder injury, but he's back in now, averaging in just 1 game close to 10 yards a punt return and almost 20 on kickoff returns. And anytime you get around 10 yards of return, it's a first down. That's big.
2nd and 7, Saskatchewan. Out of the shotgun, Slack standing at midfield, has some time, steps up and throws, incomplete. And a flag is down in the Rough Rider backfield.
Full-out blitz by the Calgary Stampeders, and Reggie Slack did a pretty nice job sort of fighting it off and delivering the football. Looks like it wouldn't have mattered even if it was caught.
Holding, Saskatchewan number 60. Penalties declined, 3rd down.
The left guard, Gene Mikowski, called on that hold, but it does not matter. The Riders will be punting again.
Well, they had to do some shuffling in that offensive line, Roger. You mentioned it early where Ed King has had to play. They've had to... When John Terry got hurt, Jim Daly had to make 3 moves on the offensive line, and that was when the 3-game losing streak began for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. If you don't win the war in the trenches, it's tough to win the game.
Paul McCallum to punt again. Just inside his 50-yard line. And Marvin Coleman, the lone guy back to get it, standing at his 10. And once again, not exactly a booming punt. And it'll be no yards as Coleman takes it across the 20. Up near the 24-yard line. And tack on a few more yards for the Stampeders with the penalty. Tomorrow night we're on the air. Friday night football. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers still in search of their first win against the BC Lion team, looking for a resurgence, standing at 2-4. And the way the West is going, Glenn, you never know.
Well, apparently Hamilton won that game against Edmonton, so a BC win tightens up the West Division in a big way.
Jim Daly fell to 2-4 last week and took a little bit of heat over it in that overtime. Elected to take the ball instead of the wind, and apparently it was quite the wind at Taylor Field. Because of it, Calgary ended up deferring their pick to the second overtime half and got the win both in the first and second. And that proved to be a big factor.
Yeah, he took some criticism, but you know what? In defense of Jim Daly, when you throw an interception for a touchdown, the wind was not a factor.
He said he may have gotten a little greedy because Saskatchewan has been moving the ball so well. A little trickery here. The direct snap to Kelvin Anderson, although Saskatchewan's wise to it for a short game.
Well, here's one we haven't seen, and I'm sure that the Saskatchewan Roughriders haven't seen it either. Kelvin Anderson, who's lined up in the shotgun formation to the left of Garcia, is going to take the direct snap. And you know what? You have to credit Jamie Crysdale for getting it to him, because that's not easy. You got your head down between your legs, and you got to find the extra guy to the left.
The Riders stuff it up. A gain of only 1 to set up 2nd and 9. The Stamps just inside the 30-yard line. Garcia once again working out of the shotgun. And he looks short and finds his slot back, Vince Danielson, who is having a productive night again, taken out in first down yardage up around the 40-yard line. So the Stamps move the sticks again, and at the end of the first quarter, they lead at 14-0. Back to our CFL Live studio now.
watching CFL Live, and we're at the quarter. Here's your host, James Duffy.
All right, welcome back to CFL Control. My name is James Duffy, and joining me as always, you didn't get to see him in our pregame show because there wasn't one, Eric Tillman and Chris Schultz. And guys, the Stamps picking up where they left off in overtime last week. You know, these teams played 27-27 for 60 minutes. In the last 25 minutes, Calgary 33, Saskatchewan nothing. What's been the difference?
Well, James, Saskatchewan loves to play man coverage. The problem is both of Calgary's inside receivers, Alan Pitts and Vince Danielson, are 6'4". On the flip side, Saskatchewan's inside halfbacks are both only 5'9". That size differential is a real problem for Saskatchewan. I just don't think they can continue to play man coverage, Chris. I think they're going to have to go to zone.
They're either going to have to go to zone or they're going to have to take some risks defensively, play some press coverage, do something to disrupt the rhythm, and even more important, no 2-and-outs. Right now, Calgary's playing at a high, efficient level, and if they don't stop that rhythm on that offense, this will be a one-sided game, James. We'll find out shortly.
All right, and speaking of one-sided games, well, we had another one tonight in Hamilton, the rematch of the Ticats and Eskimos, pretty much the same as the last game in Edmonton last week. The Ticats scored 38 straight points in the third and fourth quarters, went on to beat the Eskimos 48-23. Oski Wee Oski won one. They're 6-1. And at Molson Stadium, close to a full house, watch the Owls beat the Argos 24-20. Mike Pringle's TD and two-point convert in the fourth was the difference. Now back to our game. Here's Rod and Glenn.
All right, thank you, James. Interesting stuff tonight, what's going on, and the door is now open for Calgary with Edmonton losing to take sole possession of first in the West. And they have looked like a first-place team in the first quarter, Glenn, dominating this football game. The numbers bear it out.
Yeah, you see the 139 passing yards. I mean, 62 of that on one play to Alan Pitts, the actual first play of the game. Little edge in the time of possession as well, which wears on that Saskatchewan defense as the game goes on.
It sure does. Wally Buono, you'd never know the team's ahead. That's just his usual sideline demeanor.
But it's too early.
Absolutely knowing. Knowing what happened before. Yeah. This is the Canadian Football League. A lot of things can change. The slack in that Saskatchewan offense can start lighting it up. But right now it is the defense's concern for the green and white. On the field again, as Chris Schultz mentioned. Could be a problem later on if they're on for a long time. Garcia dumping it off. Got Terry Vaughn.
Yes, Garcia finds Terry Vaughn.
And for a gain of about 5 yards.
Well, it's an interesting formation that time. Terry Vaughn lined up in the backfield with Alan Pitts. It caused a little confusion before the snap of the ball. And, of course, once the play began, Vaughn took off to the outside. I mean, this was an interesting formation. Vaughn and Pitts in the backfield on that last play.
Terry Vaughn second in the CFL in combined yardage. A lot of returning earlier on, although it's Marvin Coleman doing the punt returning tonight. Garcia tosses it over for Danielson. Another first down, Big Vince Danielson. Inside Saskatchewan territory and knocked out at the 47, a gain of 20. And Danielson is picking up right where he left off last week at Taylor Field.
Yeah, and he's doing it with last week, the same success rate they had last week with the same type of patterns. Vince Danielson right here on the crossing route. We talked about it early in the game. Crossing routes are giving the Saskatchewan Roughriders problems. They have 2 weeks in a row. They're tough to cover. The receiver's running away from the defensive back. He normally lines up in an outside position.
And as Eric Tillman had mentioned, Danielson and Pitts, bigger targets, tougher to cover. And they're having a night tonight. So's Garcia. From midfield, launches it deep. He wanted Vaughn. It's no good, falling out of bounds inside the Saskatchewan 5.
Well, the fans kind of wanted an interference call, but I think it's a good no call by the officials because a little pushing and shoving near the end of the play, but no blood, no foul.
Spoken like a true DB.
Well, you see Eric Sutton in pretty good position and then just kind of gets the shoulder on Vaughn, but he was looking back to the football, and that's good no call.
That would have been a pretty difficult catch anyway, I agree. And it stands at second down at the 47-yard line, Saskatchewan. Calgary pass away from scoring range again. This is their fourth possession. They have majors in 2 of their previous 3. Second and 10 out of the shotgun again. Garcia under pressure but gets it away. It's over. Alan Pitts outstretched arms and falls incomplete. And Calgary this time will be punting.
Well, Garcia got a little bit of pressure from Darnell Small in a delayed blitz, and that one, he had Small in his face, just overthrew the intended receiver, which was Alan Pitts on the play. But it's tough to throw the ball when you got a linebacker in your chest.
So Tony Martino will be on to punt again, averaging 49.4, first in the CFL, heading into this game. That first punt, even more than that average. And field position, a factor again as he stands close to his 50-yard line, barring a great return or a bad punt. Saskatchewan's going to be deep in their territory again, unless, of course, it sails into the end zone, which it does. Another beautiful punt for a single point. So they'll have the good field position and a 67-yard punt, but they give up another and fall behind by 15. Well, last week Saskatchewan fell behind by as many as 16. They're down by 15 now. Big task ahead for Reggie Slack, and they're having trouble moving the football. They had trouble before in turning that ball over. Going to work now at the 35-yard line after the single by Tony Martino off the punt for that 15-point of Calgary. And they hand off. Flags on the play. Short yardage for Mike Saunders. Gain of 3 yards.
Well, offensive coordinator Cal Murphy will have to try and talk to his quarterback and Reggie Slack and try and get him to stop turning the ball over, which in my opinion is one of the keys for the Saskatchewan Roughriders to win the game tonight. They have to eliminate turnovers. Reggie Slack threw 2 interceptions in his first 4 games and 7 in his last 2. They have to contain Kelvin Anderson on the run. You see the 3 TDs from last week. And control the crossing route. Vince Danielson has already had success here tonight on the crossing route, and he killed him last week as well.
One of those interceptions, as we mentioned earlier on, went in overtime last week to Jack Kellogg that sealed the win for Calgary. 1st and 5 here. Penalty against the Stampeders. And it's a handoff again. Mike Saunders getting closer to first down yardage over the 40-yard line. Jermaine Miles on the tackle for the Stamps.
Well, Mike Saunders is going to find it tough running in the middle. This is a Calgary defense that ranks #1 against the run. Had a pretty good week last week with 14 carries and 78 yards. Of course, had the 1-yard touchdown rush, but it's tough going against that Calgary defense. They're only giving up 70 yards a game, which, like I mentioned, is first in the league.
Great against the rush. In 2nd and 2, a rushing situation, and they do hand off, and they do appear to have that first down up over the 45-yard line. The sticks will be moving. So another first down, just the 2nd of the game for Reggie Slack and Saskatchewan. His 6th season, and so far his best, his most productive. Work again with first down now. Close to the 47. In a hole again early in this game. And he rolls to his right. And he looks downfield, and it's off Mayfield's fingertips, and it falls incomplete.
Well, you have to credit Dave Van Bellingham for that one, because he got right in front of Mayfield just before that ball arrived and distracted him enough for that ball to go back over his head. Van Bellingham is replacing Greg Knox, who may be back next week.
And Sean Daniels called in the hold there, so once again, it doesn't matter, as the sticks will move back for 20 yards for a first down for Jim Daly in Saskatchewan.
Just mentioning Dave Van Bellingham, he's played well in replacement of Greg Knox, who likely will be back next week for Calgary. He's coming back off a broken thumb.
Had no problem sitting out last year, he said. And he understands the circumstances here. Just glad to be playing football again and in Calgary, where he played his university ball. Mayfield has it. Big play again. Curtis Mayfield. Touchdown, Saskatchewan. 63 yards. We've seen this a lot this year.
He's got tremendous speed. He can outrun zone coverage, and that's not easy. You know, sometimes when receivers go man-to-man, one-on-one, they can get open. It takes a lot of speed to be able to outrun zone coverage. Curtis Mayfield all the way across the field from the right side. You see him at the top of your screen, comes all the way across, outruns the coverage, gets gets in behind and then takes off past Dave Van Bellingham to the end zone. Big play guy and likes to play Calgary last week. 39 yards, against the Stamps.
This is Saskatchewan's 7th game, and in 5 of them, they have had big plays, 40 yards plus, pass and run for touchdowns, another one there. A gain of 63 yards, and Cal Murphy likes what he sees from his offense on that. Saskatchewan maybe the best this year in setting up the big play, and Reggie Slack loves to live that way.
Yeah, well, Cal really designed an offense that best suits that guy right there, number 17, Reggie Slack. It puts Slack in things that he does well in the position, and Curtis Mayfield will salute that play.
And Curtis Mayfield, another touchdown, and that for him is number 5 on the year. And Reggie Slack evens things up in his ratio for TDs, interceptions now 9 of each.
The best part about scoring a touchdown, score the touchdown and then come tell everyone on the sideline about it.
And get right next to that bucket and have a drink and cool off after a nice long run. 63-yarder. Mayfield used to those big plays, running those deep routes and running a far way afterwards. So Jim Daly can feel a little bit more comfortable, if that's the right word, down now by only 8 points. And we've seen it before. Last week in Saskatchewan, they saw it.
Momentum is a scary thing, Rod. I mean, when you make a big play like that, your defense comes on the field, the next drive is pumped up.
McCallum's kick sends Coleman down to his goal line. Has some speed up the middle and uses it. Marvin Coleman up over the Calgary 45. A return of 46 yards. And it was in the 3rd quarter. Curtis Mayfield last week, when Saskatchewan was down by so much, helped the Riders get back into that game. They had 17 unanswered points, including this play.
139 yards, including this 56-yarder where he does the hook slide. No one touches him and then takes off. And you know what? Same thing tonight. Curtis Mayfield does a nice job all the way across the field, catches it, and then takes it all the way in a nice run after the catch.
Broke into the CFL with the Las Vegas Posse back in 1994. His quarterback then, Anthony Calvillo. Garcia throws, Alan Pitts catches, but it's a short game, just short of the Calgary 50. It'd be about 3 yards.
This could be the slot back duel. Alan Pitts will try and one-up Curtis Mayfield every time they're on the field. Pitts started out with the big play. Mayfield's come back with one. Now Pitts wants to get back involved.
Suffered a hand injury in a fight before last season, but came back for week 8. And in his first game against Winnipeg, he picked up from where he left off. He had a brilliant game then. And perhaps the best receiver overall that's played the game. I know that's a difficult thing to say given how many good ones there have been, but the numbers certainly show that. Garcia to the shotgun again. On 2nd and long, he steps up. He's going to run. Jeff Garcia is close, and I believe he does have another Calgary first down across midfield.
If Jeff Garcia hook slides when Darnell Small is breaking in on him, he doesn't get the first down. But because he takes the extra chance, jumps over Small, he gets it. It's second effort, and it's the type of mentality that Jeff Garcia has. Watch him. Good hook slide right there. He doesn't. He dives over, picks it up on the second effort. Garcia got it.
29 carries. He's not afraid to run the football either. Not as many as Reggie Slack has, who's leading all the CFL in yards rushing among quarterbacks. But Garcia has shown that he is not afraid to do it himself and take off. He's rolling to his right, and he throws this time. And they say no good. Attempted there for Travis Moore, but falls incomplete at the Saskatchewan 40.
Jeff Garcia looked to the sideline, pick up the next call. He has the opportunity to call his own plays if he gets in the flow of the football game, but a lot of them are sent in. Depends on the quarterback. Some like to call their own. Some feel it's important to have a little assistance from the sideline. And the guys upstairs, you can see a little bit better, a bit wider angle of the field.
Heading into this game, he completed nearly 65% of his passes. And looks to be passing again here out of the shotgun on 2nd and 10. And he has his man. Another first down for Calgary. Up over the 40-yard line, Travis Moore has another catch.
Yeah, Travis Moore, and it was another inside pattern that he gets open on. And Well, if you're in Saskatchewan, you're wondering, well, what do they have to do to stop those crossing patterns and those inside patterns? Well, you need to get a little help from your linebackers underneath. And when those guys run across the middle, tattoo them once or twice, and that sometimes makes them think twice about going after the football.
Nothing is working yet, though, it seems. They hand off to Kelvin Anderson. Good rush defense. Wrapped up there by former Stampeder, Ernie Brown.
Now playing for Greg Marshall.
Well, Greg Marshall has been a little frustrated in the last 3 weeks as the defensive coordinator. His team has looked really good at times on defense, and then at times, and especially when they really needed to, they let opposing offenses go down the field. Just like last week in Calgary with about a minute left, Calgary moved the football down and scored the tying point. Greg Marshall just needed one stop out of his defense and didn't get it.
Two of the linemen up front for Saskatchewan are ex-Stampeders, Ernie Brown and also Dwayne Patterson.
Garcia passes and completes another. And once again, it's Travis Moore down to Saskatchewan's 26. The sixth move again, and nothing seems to be stopping the Stamps. A gain of 13.
Well, in fairness to the defense for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, you know, other than the first play of the game where Alan Pitts was wide open, Greg Marshall's watched this secondary. Pretty tight coverage. Travis Moore has had a couple catches, and Vince Danielson has had a pretty good night so far already, but they've had to work for him. 13 yards.
Marshall had a great career as a player, mostly with the Ottawa Roughriders back in the 80s. But hurting a bit here, I'm sure, the way that Calgary offense is working. On the option, Garcia keeps it. Look at Garcia run inside the 15, and another Calgary first down.
Well, he may be the perfect quarterback in the league to run the option play because he has the great ability to run up the middle. And you saw Darnell Small, number 42, flash to Kelvin Anderson. That takes away the pitch man. Garcia keeps the ball, puts it under his arm, picks up what he can.
Gain of 13 and down to Saskatchewan's 13.
The only downside of Garcia running that is that he's going to take more hits than he really has to in a football game. And George Cortez, the offensive coordinator, and Wally Bono don't want to see their starting quarterback get hit too much.
Bryce Bevel, defensive back for Saskatchewan, down on the field right now. We'll take a break. Saskatchewan under pressure. To think that 2 weeks ago, Calgary fans were booing number 7, Jeff Garcia. He's been brilliant. Was here again, Glenn, on the option.
Oh, watch this option. It was executed perfectly. Right here, you'll see Darnell Small has to go to Kelvin Anderson. Here, Dion Fox has to take the quarterback, but he gets blocked on a perfect cut block by Ron Meyer. That gives Garcia the chance to get up the field.
And Bevel, Bryce Bevel, defensive back is out. Curtis Gallup, product of UBC and just recently signed on by Saskatchewan, is in the secondary for the Roughriders. Now to the shotgun on 1st and 10, and pressing again. Garcia throws, bobbled and caught by Kelvin Anderson, but he's chased back. Turns around and may actually pick up a yard on a bizarre play. And a flag is down on the field as well.
Well, sometimes it's better to be lucky or lucky to be good or good to be lucky or whatever the cliche
Something
is.
like
but Kelvin Anderson had no idea that ball was coming to him. Bounced off his shoulder pad and came up with it. Saskatchewan 99. First down receiver.
Well, and to boot, Ernie Brown, the ex-Stampeder, Saskatchewan, called for the penalty, so...
Yeah, you know Ernie Brown will be pumped up to play against his former team. Of course, he played 15 games with the Stamps last year and recorded a couple of sacks during that time. So whenever you play against the old team, you want to prove the old coach made a mistake in letting you go.
Dwayne Patterson with the same motivation for Saskatchewan. After all that by Anderson, doesn't matter because they got the penalty and it's 1st and 5. Just outside the 5-yard line of the Roughriders are knocking on the door again.
And that one intended for Acadia Axman, product Aubrey Cummings, but it falls incomplete.
Todd McMillan does a pretty nice job from the top. He's up at the top of your screen here. He's going to come across from the wide-out position. We talked about crossing routes. Well, here's another crossing route. He's seen it a couple of times in this game. This time he times it perfectly, comes up over the top of Cummings, knocks that ball away.
Calgary is led by as many as 15. And with a trip to the end zone here on 2nd and 5 from the 8-yard line, they could go up by 15 again. Garcia's looking that way. Touchdown, Stampeders. It's Danielson again.
Saskatchewan Roughriders and Curtis Gallup.
So Bryce Bevel went out, Gallup came in, and Garcia went to work on him, and Danielson picking up another touchdown. And with another McLaughlin convert, it's another 15-point lead. Calgary 22, Saskatchewan 7. Vince Danielson, what a couple of weeks, what a season he's been having so far.
Well, rookie defensive back Curtis Gallup, who's inserted into the game in the extra defensive back position, he's been told all game to line up inside. Look how far inside he is on Danielson. And because of that, Danielson decides to turn it the other way and break on the out. Likely a read route from Garcia to Danielson for the touchdown.
Couple of touchdowns for Danielson on the day. He's got 3 now on the season. And on the kickoff, Profale Greer has it. And is across the 35-yard line before he is taken down. A return of 20 yards for Greer. The scoring drive, the third major scoring drive for Calgary, and Danielson finishes it off there on the 8-yard catch.
Well, anytime you get into double figures in your plays in a
guy, 88, and having quite a game. So Saskatchewan, Reggie Slack once again, more or less behind the 8 ball. They closed the gap, although temporarily, with a touchdown in their last drive. Here they go again. Slack throws across the field and complete, but short of a first down. It's Donald Narcisse with his second catch of the day as he inches closer to history, the historic receptions record.
I can pick one more off. I talked to him before the game. I said, how many more years are you going to play this game? He said, well, I take it 1 year at a time, but I definitely want to come back for another season, which I'm sure is great news for Saskatchewan Roughrider fans.
It sure is. You just feel bad when you ask him that because you were teammates and you're not playing any more than he is, right?
Yeah, I'm a little jealous. You're right.
I watched you running the field yesterday. I think you could still get in there. On the option, and it goes way back to Mike Saunders. He gets knocked down to the 25-yard line, but things once again going awry for the green and white. The option attempt, and on the toss it goes by Saunders.
That ball just pops right out of there in a big way. See the option where I think what Reggie Slack wanted to do there was get the ball out quicker out of Sean Daniels' stomach so he had more chance to pitch the ball to Mike Saunders. Kind of delayed him a little bit. He got it out late. He got hit as they was just as pitching it back there, and it just went and hit the turf.
And so more trouble for Jim Daly and company with 3 minutes to go until halftime. Saskatchewan down by 15.
Well, Jim Daly has history against him when you think about the last 3 years. Going in at halftime down, they're 4-25, and in 1998 have not won when they've been behind at the half. When you consider that they haven't won in McMahon Stadium since '89, history definitely against the Saskatchewan Roughriders right now.
They trailed at the half last week, and they actually had a 3-point lead late until they went into overtime, and they lost another shorter punt for Paul McCallum. It bounces at the Calgary 46 and out, so field position rearing its ugly head again there. Garcia and the Stamps and Alan Pitts and Vince Danielson will go to work again.
Oh, yeah, and you don't think that Alan Pitts' eyes are wide open right now, and he'll be talking to his quarterback because he's in this head-to-head matchup with Don Narcisse for career numbers, and with 2:51 left in the half, he wants to keep putting some numbers on the board.
Jim Daly had expressed concern about field position. That punt by McCallum, only 38 yards. Saskatchewan, with McCallum and Wayne Lamley before him, the lowest average in the CFL so far this year. And because of it, Calgary could be in the works for more points. Garcia, 15-21, going for more as well. Make it 16-22. Another completion up across midfield. Let's go down again to Sherry Hargrave.
Well, as you can see, the Saskatchewan defense is struggling a bit. I just toured over behind the bench. Greg Marshall got his team around him. He says, look, Calgary is not showing you anything different than they did last week, so let's go out there and start playing ball. And it looked like they started to, but they have a long way to go yet.
All right, thank you, Sherry. They certainly do. That catch by Terry Vaughn, a gain of 8 yards to set up the second and short for the Stamps. right at midfield. 2:28 and counting on the clock, and a 15-point lead in the Garcia keep. And he is very close to another Stamps first down.
Well, we talked about the frustration of Greg Marshall in the defense, and he looks definitely frustrated on that sideline in this game. He's also said to me that we've been in position to make some huge plays in football games. The last 2 weeks, we've dropped 6 interceptions that were right in our hands. Those are plays that turn the tide in the game, and you have the opportunity to make them. You got to come up with them, or else bad things will happen. And 3 losses in a row is a bad thing.
Total dominance in the first down department as well. See for the Stamps, looking for more. And it falls short. Looking for more from Travis Moore down around the 35.
Well, I think Deion Fox just threw the timing of that play off for Jeff Garcia. That was a designed throw. He wants to throw it just behind Travis Moore down the sideline, but you have to be right on in your timing, or else it's not going to be completed. And
Number 18, penalty decline, second down.
And it wouldn't have mattered anyway.
We've got a few of those tonight.
Yeah. Most penalized team in the league. Wally Buono's Calgary Stampeders, which is very uncharacteristic for his teams.
103 career wins heading in. He's never had a losing season since taking over in 1990. Last year was his worst when they finished at 10-8, and then lost to these Green Riders here at McMahon in the first round of the playoffs. Terry Vaughn has it. Goes back a bit to see if he can get some more, but Eric Sutton buries him, along with Darnell Small.
You know, when you look at this receiving corps for the Calgary Stampeders, and we talked about how good they are to a man, I don't think there's a better receiving corps as a group in the Canadian Football League. Terry Vaughn is also on pace to have over 1,000 yards. In fact, all 4 Calgary receivers are on pace for 1,000-yard seasons, and that's incredible. If you can distribute the football to all 4 guys, keep them all happy like that.
Garcia has his targets. He uses them. He'll try again here with 4 to the right on a first down. And throws. And they say no good. Intended once again for Aubrey Cummings, product of Acadia. 134 on the scoreboard clock here at McMahon. Boy, they have good receivers. You talk about that. Another couple of good receivers in the works here in Cummings and Andre Arlene.
Yeah, when they talk about Aubrey Cummings, here's a guy that they say just improves every single game out. He was really surprised with the playbook when he showed up in camp and how much he had to learn in a hurry, but he has really come along quickly and had a big game against Toronto where he had 62 yards in receptions.
The #1 receiver in the CIAU last year and a nominee for the Heck Crichton Trophy is the most valuable player. 3 to the left, 3 to the right. Garcia over the middle. Pitts has it. Alan Pitts still on the move. Inside the 25, down to the 22. The sticks move again. 1:26 to go until halftime.
Across the middle again for Alan Pitts, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders secondary is going to need some help from their linebackers. You see number 18 in your screen. Watch him come across. Now see Darnell Small and Deion Fox don't get enough depth. That gives the open area for Alan Pitts in front of the secondary and in behind the linebackers. Those linebackers have to get more depth and get underneath Pitts if they want to have any success on defense.
Alan Pitts, the gain of 20 is just 3 yards shy from another 100-yard game. Leads the CFL in history with 51 of them. This one goes to Vaughn. Another completion. And another Calgary first down close to the 10-yard line.
Garcia just looks like he is on fire in this football game, and it's Pitts a couple of times, but other than that last play, Terry Vaughn really had to work for it. He fought off the defender, came up with a catch, and took a big hit. Garcia's putting the ball right where he has to.
As they bring the sticks out to measure again, Garcia a surgeon, 19 for 27 tonight, 33 of 44 last week at Taylor Field. Haven't heard a boo yet tonight, have you?
I don't think we'll hear a boo.
Now, mind you, you get a lot of Saskatchewan fans here at McMahon for these games, so...
Yeah, well, you may hear them booing their team, but they definitely won't be booing Jeff Garcia. Those are the numbers from last week, and I think one of the most important ones up there is no interception.
Well, they could boo Garcia, Saskatchewan fans, because they've seen enough of this. It's almost merciless the way he has gone to work. Largely passing, but also even running the ball a couple of times very well. and threatening to go up big time here late in the half. They were just shy of the first down, so Garcia keeps it and does get over the top. And it looks like it'll be first and goal, the longest distance away for Wally Guano in the stands.
Well, Jeff Garcia, you know, some of the best compliments you can get are from opposing players or opposing coaches. And Jim Daly mentioned to me, he says, you know, it's not very often that you see a young quarterback be thrown into the Canadian Football League like Garcia was back in 1995 when he came in for an injured Doug Flutie and had success right away. He said, you know, it was amazing that 25 years old, that Jeff Garcia had as much success as he's had. Another great plus for number 7.
Well, it's actually first and 10, just outside the 10. Garcia throws, end zone nearly picked off by Ryan Carey, number 31. With 20 seconds to go on the clock, what a play that would have been for Saskatchewan.
Well, that's what we just talked about. Greg Marshall's frustration is right there. I mean, here's an opportunity to make a big play, come up with the interception, and snuff out a chance for Calgary to score. I mean, this is a deflected ball that Ryan Carey definitely has a shot at, albeit it might have been a tough catch, but he had the opportunity to come up with the catch and didn't make it. That's 7 in the last 3 games that they've dropped.
10th play of this drive. Ball just outside the 10. Calgary leading by 15 and looking for more with 20 seconds on the clock. The whistle blows before the snap gets away. And a flag.
Calgary number 7. Down.
One of the few things Garcia has done wrong in this night.
Well, that's big because that'll bring Mark McLaughlin out because they'll lose the down now. And that is a huge play. I mean, that could very likely have taken 4 points off the board.
But it does give us our first glimpse of Mark McLaughlin on the night other than Converse. McLaughlin under fire a couple of weeks ago, but went 3 for 3, so his numbers, Glenn, have certainly improved from what they were in July.
Well, yeah, and talking to him, boy, he was sure excited to have the perfect game last week and get some of the pressure off his shoulders.
This attempt coming from 17 yards away. Dickinson with the hold, and it's up and good, and tack on 3 more points for the Stamps, and another completed field goal for Mark McLaughlin. A 25-7 lead now with 17 seconds to go.
You know, Mark McLaughlin last year got off to the same sort of start that he did this year, and ironically against Saskatchewan at about the same time of the year, went 5 for 5, got out of the slump he was in, and really came on strong as the season progressed. And it looks like history may repeat itself because McLaughlin got off to the bad start last week, 3 for 3, and is 1 for 1 tonight.
2 weeks ago, missing that one that could have won the game against the Argos. Jeff Garcia, they got the 3 points. They could have had more, though. Garcia called in the time count.
Well, he was over there and talking to George Cortez, the offensive coordinator, likely wanted to get that call sent in a little quicker because that could have taken 4 points off the board for the Calgary Stampeders.
As it stands, Slack and the Roughriders down by 18 as he dumps it off to Mike Saunders. First down and more. Cross midfield, and Saunders just keeps going. Down to about the 45 of Calgary, a gain of 30 yards.
Well, you know, just to go back to that Calgary. 5 for 5, got out of the slump he was in and really came on strong as the season progressed. And it looks like history may repeat itself because McLaughlin got off to the bad start last week, 3 for 3, and is 1 for 1 tonight.
2 weeks ago, missing that one that could have won the game against the Argos. Jeff Garcia, they got the 3 points. They could have had more, though. Garcia called in the time count.
Well, he was over there and talking to George Cortez, the offensive coordinator, likely wanted to get that call sent in a little quicker because that could have taken 4 points off the board for the Calgary Stampeders.
As it stands, Slack and the Roughriders down by 18 as he dumps it off to Mike Saunders. First down and more. Cross midfield, and Saunders just keeps going. Down to about the 45 of Calgary, a gain of 30 yards.
Well, you know, just to go back to that Calgary penalty that took 4 points off the board, was still a half to play, and you see big plays out of Saskatchewan. Wally Guano knows that the keys for him to be successful, see the bottom one is discipline. That penalty took 4 points forward likely for Calgary, and one of the things that they're going to have to do tonight to have success. Stop Reggie Slack's running, which they've done pretty well so far, and eliminate the Riders' big plays. And you think back to the Mayfield touchdown early, and that big play by Mike Saunders.
Paul McCallum's longest field goal this year is 52 yards. They'd be in position for that. As the clock ticks down to 5 seconds, trying to get a little bit closer. Dan Farthing as it falls incomplete. Reggie Slack trying to get something salvaged in this half that has been very disappointing for an offense that had been very productive.
Well, they're going to bring the field goal team on right now. Paul McCallum will go to kick this field goal. Sometimes when you do this with a little more time left, I mean, 5 seconds, you really only have a chance for one play. So come out and take a shot at it.
The ball on the right hash mark at the 45. It would be a 52-yard attempt. As mentioned,
That is his longest this season, 10 for 13.
I knew Paul McCallum was going to be a great kicker when he came to Saskatchewan and tried out. Dave Ridgway was there, and of course one of the best in history. Paul McCallum kicked the ball once. I dropped the snap. It was spinning sideways on the ground, kicked it from about 38 yards straight through the uprights. I asked him to do it again because I was so surprised, and he nailed another one. I knew at that point he'd be a good kicker in this league.
He can perform, and you see from long range over 40, he's 3 for 3. This from 52 has the distance. It is good.
Wow.
And the clock has counted down to 0, so at least Jim Daly and company have something to hang their hat on. Heading into the locker room, they're down by 15.
All right, 25-10 Stampeders leading at the half. Things going very well for Wally Buono, pretty much according to his game plan. Our Sherry Hargrave spoke with Wally Buono just a couple of minutes ago.
This first half looking a whole lot like last week.
Well, it is, but I think we're happy with the way we're playing. We gave up one big play on defense, which cost us, but our offense has moved the ball very well, and except for a time count penalty there, we're probably going to put more points on the board.
What will you say to your team at halftime to keep them on top of their game in the second half?
Well, I think the best thing to do is to let them play. I mean, there's nothing to say. They understand it's a 60-minute game, and they realize what happened last week. It's important for us to start strong like we did in the first quarter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and there are your halftime stats, pretty much the way the game's going. Calgary dominating, 250 yards passing. We talked about Jeff Garcia's efficiency, 281 net yards, and yes, they're dominating the time of possession as well. And I tell you what, you know, if you were making a sandwich or going for a drink just as the game was started, you probably missed our key play of the half because it was right off the top of the game. I think the second play after the kickoff, the Stampeders started exactly the way they left off last week in the overtime game. Mr. Garcia not wasting any time. He'll find Alan Pitts, and Alan Pitts cuts back inside, and Alan Pitts is off to the races, and Eric Tillman, the whole half's been pretty much this way, hasn't it?
Well, Calgary's just dominated from A to Z. You know, I mean, a great first half performance for Wally Buono's group. But Paul McCallum's kick right before halftime, a 52-yarder, was just critical for Saskatchewan. They had to have something positive happen before they went in halftime. Now they go in, at least they've done something to get a little confidence, to get their composure back. And Chris, you know, as badly as they've played, they're still only down by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, they are down by 2 touchdowns, but I really think Glenn Suter brought up an excellent point in that there's been 3 moves across the offensive line for the arthroscopic injury to a very good left tackle and John Terry. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Saskatchewan's struggling offensively. There's 2 units that you want to plug individuals in. You don't want to make too many. One is offensive line, the other is in secondary, and it's because of distance. Offensive line plays very close together. Secondary plays quite apart, but you have to know the speed and the ability of the person playing side by side. I think that's really important in this game as it's unfolding.
What do you do if you're Jim Daly? You know, you played well for 60 minutes last week. You got blown away in the overtime. You're getting blown away in the first half. Eric, what do you say at the half?
Well, I think you talk about last week's game and the fact that Calgary dominated the game early last week, James. This is the exact situation the Roughriders found themselves in position. They came in, made some adjustments at halftime, and came out and really dominated the second half. In fact, they were in position to win at the end of the game. Mike Saunders on the last play of regulation had a completion. He just didn't get out of bounds before the clock ran out, or they could have kicked a field goal and won last week. So tell them there's another 30 minutes to play. You just need a big play, just like the Mayfield long throw to Mayfield, and you're right back in it, James.
All right. Need a couple of big plays to get back into this. They trail 25-10 at the half. Now, one thing in the league tonight, 3 games, good crowds everywhere tonight. Almost full in Montreal, over 21,000 in Hamilton, and a great crowd tonight in Calgary as well. You want to go see a game? Here's your ticket info in the area around you.
certainly been one of the stories of the game. Alan Pitts, one of the greatest receivers in the history of this game, and so too his counterpart tonight, Glenn, Ray Elgart.
Yeah, Don Narcisse had 2 catches tonight. He's going to pass Ray Elgart in the catch department before Alan Pitts will. But Pitts will likely get to the yardage mark that Elgart holds before Narcisse will. Now, I think that between the two of them, it depends on who retires first. Because Pitts has a lot of years left in him, and Don Narcisse wants to play a couple of more, so those numbers will only go up.
Of course, I think my brain was retiring for a second there. I thought I saw Ray Elgart out on the field thing. No. Of course, I meant Don Narcisse chasing Elgart, as you mentioned. A couple of catches, and that's all he had last week. Things slowed down a little bit for him here.
Yeah, this is exactly what we go back to, because see that Pitts will probably pass Ray Elgart at about Labor Day of next year. Don Narcisse is a little bit behind him in the yardage department, but when it comes to catches, it's reversed.
Good receiving talent out there tonight, as you see. Some final touch-ups for Narcisse.
Oh, yeah, you got to tape up the gloves. Trainer doesn't just tape ankles.
Not anymore. The way it is in football now to start the second half, Paul McCallum. And down to the 10-yard line for Marvin Coleman. Cuts back towards the middle and gets across the 30. And the Stampeders, who had the football for a large chunk of that first half, will begin the second half with it as Jeff Garcia comes in after a brilliant 30 minutes of football to get to work again.
Well, again, Garcia's had a lot of success throwing the football. A lot of those throws over the middle for 250 yards. And again, no interceptions for either quarterback. They're controlling the turnover department, but Garcia is having a hot night with a lot of crossing routes.
25 points Garcia and company racked up in that first half. And he'll work out a shotgun to start off this second. Standing back inside his 25. That one falls short of Travis Moore and incomplete.
Well, this is a big series for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I mean, it's early in the second half, but they truly need to come up with a stop here. When you're down as a team and you go into the locker room down by a couple of touchdowns, it's very important to come out and score first. It doesn't have to be the big major or whatever. It can be a field goal. Keep that field position battle on your side. But Jim Daly would dearly love to see his team score first. But they'll have to stop this Calgary offense in this drive to get it going.
2nd and 10 Stamps from their 33. Hardly a drive has failed so far for Calgary in this game, and this one gets a bit of movement there as Kelvin Anderson takes the pass and gets up near the 40-yard line, but they will be punting this time. A rarity as it's turned out so far for Calgary.
Yeah, and one of the adjustments that Saskatchewan's defense likely made at halftime was to talk to their linebackers about the depth in their drops. Because on that last play, Greg Marshall had the linebackers about 15 yards deep. Garcia had no choice but to dump it to Kelvin Anderson. They came up and made the tackle and held him short. That's the adjustment that Greg Marshall made at halftime.
Tony Martino on to punt again. #1 punter in the CFL. And now 2 returners back for Saskatchewan. It had been Profale Greer before. And this time Greer goes for it. But instead it's Curtis Mayfield taking it. And he is stopped cold at the 25-yard line. A 43-yard punt.
Profale Greer is usually back there by himself. And I think he may have forgot that he had Curtis Mayfield with him. He took off flying to the other side and actually ran into Mayfield as he was trying to catch the football. Usually in this situation, the returner on the right calls it. But this ball's coming straight to Mayfield, and watch Greer come all the way across and look like he wants to pick up that catch. Kind of like a couple outfielders colliding.
Mayfield had some time returning punts while Greer was injured. It was returning by committee for Saskatchewan. Mayfield's still down. Not exactly what the team that is 15 points behind needs right now. Curtis Mayfield with the only Rider touchdown of this game. 73-yard pass and run.
Exactly what Jim Daly is talking to Profale Greer about right now. He's saying, listen, who's going to call it when the ball is in the air? And once that ball is called, the other returner has to go up and try and get a block. They got it squared away, and they'll wait for the next opportunity.
Donald Narcisse with 2 receptions in the first half. And he is within 10 of Ray Elgart, his former teammate. one of the legends of this game as well. All-time receptions leader.
Now here's a little flashback. Tom Burgess right over there to Ray Elgard.
Now who's there in the sideline looking? Hey. Now where are you looking? Elgard's over here.
Well, he kind of fumbled the ball there, and I was wondering if we were going to have to go back on the field, check the scoreboard to see where we were time-wise.
And that was the one that passed Rocky DiPietro. And ending after 14 years. Remarkable career for Ray Elgard. 830. We see Don Narcisse closing in now. He's just 10 shy from breaking it.
And there are plans for Ray Elgard to be in Regina next week. And Don Narcisse will likely break it, depending on what he does tonight.
He had only 2, as mentioned before, last week, so things slowing down a bit, but 2 more in that half, and that one is complete. Shannon Baker.
You know, as a quarterback, though, when you think about records for Don Narcisse and things like that, you really can't concern yourself with things like that. You have to go and take what the defense gives you. You know, Don Narcisse probably threw in a couple of mentions during the week about, you know, I'm awful close. It'd be nice to have a big game in Calgary. But as a quarterback, you simply can't do it. You got to look at the defense and take what they give you. If you start thinking about one receiver, you'll get killed.
That time Baker was the target for a gain of 8, 2nd and 2, Saskatchewan. And wow, what a pop. Finds Rick Walters. And he hangs on to the football. And a first down Saskatchewan, but he took some punishment.
Last week was the first game back for Ricky Walters. He'll play as the 5th receiver for the Saskatchewan offense. He missed the first part of the season with a shoulder injury, and that shoulder was tested in a big way. And that hit from Anthony McClanahan.
And Anthony McClanahan appears to have the worst of it. And it looked to be around in the shoulder area as he lies down on the turf here at McMahon Stadium, being tended to. Calgary leading big, Saskatchewan on the move. Your favorite CFL in Calgary, the Punisher became the punishee as Anthony McClanahan took the worst of it against Rick Walters.
Well, it was solid contact. Both players had their feet solidly planted on the ground, and that's a big collision. And the way McClanahan came off the field looked like that may be a stinger. Roll out that neck, and we'll like to see him back.
It allows us another look at that wonderful hairdo. Touch with a bit of green in honor of Saskatchewan, I'm sure. Flags in the play. Saunders with the carry. Saunders going nowhere. Ray Jacobs, Jermaine Miles hauling him down for about a gain of 1 yard. Flag dropped with the snap of the football.
Offside. Calgary 92. First down repeated.
Steve Anderson called on the offside.
Well,
Curtis Mayfield coming back in.
Yeah, rather good news for Curtis Mayfield, who's injured a couple of plays ago on a punt return. Phil Greer came over and hit him as he was trying to receive the punt. He was injured, missed a couple of plays. But when you're down by 15, you know you need a couple of big plays to get yourself back in the football game, and Curtis Mayfield has been the big play guy for Saskatchewan this year.
He was last week with a 56-yard catch and run and a 73-yarder tonight. They hand off, and a short gain on that play.
Anytime you do a misdirection running play or a counter running play, penetration will crush it. That time the defensive line for the Calgary Stampeders were in the backfield, didn't let that play go anywhere. Cal Murphy will get a little upset about that. He'll want that offensive front 5 to fire off the ball a little bit better on the running play and try and create some distance on the line of scrimmage.
A gain of 1 on that one. Second down. Slack to throw again under pressure. Gets it away. It's complete. First down. More. Sean Daniels down to the Calgary 30.
Great job by Reggie Slack to read the blitz from the Calgary Stampeders and get rid of the football just in time, because Alondra Johnson right here is coming off the edge. Alondra Johnson is getting close along with Steve Anderson, but Reggie Slack dumps that football off. Big play, Saskatchewan quarterback.
And that was a gain of 23 yards. And Jim Daly has seen some life in his offense in this second half. Early in the third quarter, they're down by 15, but they're on the move in Stamps territory. And Slack to pass again. Cross field for a man. He's got it. Another completion. And that is Dan Farthing just out of bounds. First time we have heard from Dan Farthing tonight.
The forgotten man in the Saskatchewan offense coming into the game just had 261 yards. Last year he was real close to coming up with 1,000 yards on the season. He finished with 959 as you look at his yards. This year, kind of a forgotten man in that receiving corps.
The pass looked to be about 30 yards. The gain is 6 as that one went across the field. Farthing played a lot of football in Saskatchewan. From Saskatoon, played for U of S in its college days. They think the handoff, they throw, it's complete. It's a touchdown. Curtis Mayfield, and he's feeling just fine.
We got a game. And how happy is Jim Daly to get Curtis Mayfield back in the lineup, because you know you need some big plays when you have to come back from a deficit. And Mayfield comes across, and nice play fake first off by Reggie Slack. That buys him some time and some sight lines down the field to find Mayfield, who cuts across the middle and breaks the tackle of Dave Van Bellingham.
Last week, Saskatchewan was down 17-3 at the half. They had 17 unanswered points to take the lead in the third quarter. A flag down on the convert by McCallum, which was good. And it's against Saskatchewan, so they'll have to try the convert again.
Illegal procedures, Saskatchewan 57.
Well, that's no big deal for Paul McCallum. It goes really from a sand wedge to a pitching wedge.
Although for some of us, that could be a problem.
Yeah.
Some of us more than others. And that's about all I'm going to say about it.
But with this, it would cut it to an 8-point lead. Important from the standpoint, you could tie the game with a major and a 2-point convert. High snap, but it's placed down nicely, and it is good. So it is an 8-point game, and Saskatchewan is coming back. Just like last week at Taylor Field, Reggie Slack, reason to celebrate.
At a secluded private school,
we could have a Halloween party, a roaming orgy.
4 students are about to learn
I'm not who you think I am.
their teacher's terrifying secret.
Who is that? My brother. Michael!
This summer,
Everybody stay cool.
terror won't be taking a vacation. Halloween H2O.
Oh, my God.
Now playing at theaters everywhere.
When you're a champion, you've got to work night and day to protect your title. Everyone wants to put you to the test, to make you sweat. But if you've got antibacterial odor fighters in your corner and 24-hour wetness protection, the kind you find in new Speed Stick Ultimate Antiperspirant, the best speed stick ever, you'll be a star in and out of the ring. New Speed Stick Ultimate, tough 24-hour protection.
5 minutes.
Get yourself race ready with the Fram Speed Zone Saturday right here on TSN.
Saskatchewan scoring drive, 7 plays, 84 yards. Once again capped off by Curtis Mayfield.
Yeah, you call them yak yards, and it means yards after the catch. And Curtis Mayfield does a nice job afterwards. Get himself in the end zone.
You can well understand why Jim Daly held his breath, I'm sure, when Profale Greer accidentally ran into Mayfield and he was injured and spent a few plays off on the sideline. But it's okay now, it would seem. Coleman on the return, and a short return. Dan Rashovich wrapped him up just across the 25. The green and white seems to be fired up right now.
They're fired up because Curtis Mayfield has had some big plays in this football game. This was earlier in the game in the first half. Curtis Mayfield comes up with a huge catch, and And I talked about yak yards. Watch what he does with the football after he has it in his hands. Comes up with it and outruns Dave Van Bellingham's angle to get all the way to the end zone, and it was the same case afterwards. The second touchdown, Van Bellingham missed the tackle.
Garcia and the Stamps still lead by 8, but momentum is swinging. They'll try to turn it back, and they do right now with Vince Danielson. Another catch for him. And another first down for the Stampeders, trying to defuse what Saskatchewan's been starting.
Straight man-to-man, and the two men involved were talking it over there as they walk back to the huddle. Vince Danielson talking to Tyrell Ulmer. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to keep running across the field, running right away from him.
You ever get receivers telling you what they're going to do to you?
Oh, yeah. There was a little bit of talking going on the field, no question.
Gain of 18 on that one. First down, Calgary. Kelvin Anderson gets up near the Stamps' 50-yard line, about the 49.
We haven't heard a lot of Kelvin Anderson, but Jeff Garcia's had success throwing the football to Danielson and Pitt, so that takes it out of Kelvin Anderson's hands a little bit. But Calgary Stampeders are most effective when he's really involved in the offensive game plan, no question about it.
Anderson had 3 touchdowns last week at Taylor Field. 2 receptions for touchdowns, 1 running it in. And 3rd in rushing in the CFL this year. Garcia throws. Danielson catches again. Nice turnaround move to get the first down. You talk about yards after catch, Glenn. Those 3 would be about as important as any.
Oh, yeah. Second effort. You know, as a defensive back, you run all the way across to the outside of the field. Now, if you make the tackle, you put Calgary in the 3rd and 2 situation. If you make that tackle, but that's a big if with the athletes that Calgary have.
Danielson's had quite a night, and so too is this guy, Jeff Garcia. About the midway point of the 3rd quarter, and Calgary's on the move again with just an 8-point lead. Loads up and fires. And Alan Pitts just can't quite get it. Goes out of bounds. It was down around the Saskatchewan 20-yard line.
The last one to Danielson. This one deep down the sideline to Alan Pitts. No question, Jeff Garcia is trying to keep all his receivers happy. I mean, look at the distribution. 4 to Pitts. Danielson has 6. A lot of those catches over the middle. Everyone touches the ball a little bit. They can all watch the game film and have some fun the next day, provided they win, of course.
Well, they might have been thinking about a win a little earlier on, although I'm sure they've learned not to be so presumptuous anyway. Garcia trying to take off on 2nd down and long, and he falls shy of the first down at the Saskatchewan 50.
Oh, big play by Andrew Stewart for the Saskatchewan defense, because he was being blocked on the play. He has emerged as one of the leaders in that defense. There were 7 changes that Jim Daly made on the Saskatchewan defense this season, and leadership was an issue. Well, Andrew Stewart has really stepped up to the plate. He's become one of the leaders out there. Solid, not real vocal, leads by example, and comes up with a big, big play for that Rider defense.
Won a Grey Cup with the Argos last year, signing on as a free agent. He started his pro career in the NFL with the Cincinnati Bengals. Nice booming punt by Tony Martino again. You can see why he's the best right now in the CFL. Another single and a 73-yard punt. He's accounted for a couple of points tonight, and that one pushes it to a 9-point Calgary lead, 26-17. To take the lead after round 1 of the PGA Championship. See it here on TSN. Reggie Slack. He's been known for throwing some deep balls, and his numbers are pretty good as well, but averaging 20.5 yards per completion.
Yeah, Reggie Slack's having another good night with the numbers, and he is on pace right now to get close to 5,500 yards passing, which, of course, would be his best ever.
It's remarkable, and he has really emerged this year among the elite of quarterbacks, and it's taken him a long time to get that respect. It was a battle last year with Kevin Mason before he finally emerged. He gets out of trouble there and nearly has a completion off the fingertips. for Dan Farthing.
Well, initially, I think Reggie Slack was looking to go to one of his #1 targets in Don Narcisse, but in that matchup, William Hampton was in the coverage. He breaks across the middle, and he's got pretty good position in Narcisse to cut under for the football. Then when Narcisse tries to fight back, there's no chance. That's why Reggie Slack has to take off and try and find something down the field.
So 2nd and 10 for Saskatchewan. Working it through 35-yard line. And Slack stands under center. Pressure coming. Throws it away. Anthony McClanahan cut right through the line on the blitz. And if Slack hadn't thrown it away, he would have had him wrapped up and down.
All-out blitz by the Calgary defense. Anthony McClanahan and Alondra Johnson going right down Main Street. There's McClanahan. There's Johnson. He's going to work to there. McClanahan there. And it's blitz drill for Reggie Slack. Can't block them all. McClanahan is the free player on the play.
So this time Saskatchewan will be punting. Slack, not much choice there. And McClanahan does a little bit of his patented celebrating afterwards after that injury he had earlier on. He seems to be fine as well. Getting it away around his 25-yard line. And once again, not a very deep punt by McCallum. And a good return brewing here for Coleman as he gets up around the Calgary 52. Return of 10 yards and a punt of only 33. Once again, the special teams making a difference in field position tonight, as Jim Daly feared it would.
Yeah, and Marvin Coleman, one of the big reasons for that, I think the key on that last play was the fact that he caught the ball in the air. Punt returners are told all the time that you have to try and do that. You can do it at all, because that ball hits the turf. You never know which way it's going to go, and Marvin Coleman likely saved a lot of yardage on that punt by just catching it.
His longest return of the year is 50 yards, but he's done all right tonight. And Garcia sends them all out on the shotgun, and over the middle again. Travis Moore has it. Catches in some traffic. Another Stamps first down inside the 45 of Saskatchewan.
Well, Jeff Garcia continues to go over the middle, and that's a problem for the Saskatchewan defense. We've talked about it quite a bit tonight, but once again, Jeff Garcia just puts 4 receivers to one side of the field and just looks down the middle to which one opens up.
It's marked at the 44, Saskatchewan. 4:36 on the clock, remaining in the 3rd quarter. Stamps ahead by 9. Out of the shotgun, they hand off to Kelvin Anderson. Big hole up the middle. Still going. The 20. Kelvin Anderson. Touchdown, Calgary. See him break out tonight. He had a big game last week. And that's a good example of breaking out right there to reestablish a dominant Calgary lead. McLaughlin for another point after. It's good. And it is up to 16 points.
Kelvin Anderson, after the great run, will go back and thank his center, Jamie Crysdale, with the big block. Crysdale is right here in front of Jeff Garcia. Watch the block that he will put right there to get the big hole opened up. I believe it was on the linebacker, Dion Fox, get him to the outside, and then it's all up to Kelvin Anderson in the open field. What the Riders secondary got to look at. That's their angle. Pretty quick.
Not much time to take a look at that. As soon as you look, he is by you.
Don't blink or you miss it.
And Kelvin Anderson, who's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, adds to his 1998 total and adds another touchdown touchdown to the books as well.
And you know what I love about it? He throws the ball up in the stands. That's to just thank the fans here. What a job they've done in Calgary to bring back the fans to McMahon Stadium. Their attendance is way up, averaging close to 30,000, and they're having a lot of fun, especially when the Stamps play like they are tonight.
And over 31,000 in McMahon enjoying this one tonight, with the exception, as mentioned earlier, of, you can be sure, a good contingent of Saskatchewan Roughrider fans. Probably not so happy right now, but the rest of the crowd drowning them out at the moment on the kickoff.
Yeah, when you talk about indications as to whether or not the CFL has truly turned the corner, look no further than the Calgary Stampeders organization. You know, when you think of Toronto and Vancouver, who are still struggling a little bit in attendance, I truly believe that in both those big cities, there are football fans that will go back. If you have some stability in your organization like they do here in Calgary, and you put a good product on the field that competes, those fans in the big centers will come back as well, and they certainly are in Central Canada. Calgary is leading the way.
And I think your last point was the best one, the good product on the field. The Stamps have not had a losing season in the 90s. They won the Grey Cup in 92. They've been there a couple of other times. The best of the 90s. And nearly picked off there is pressure on Slack. Jack Kellogg might have been thinking a little bit about what happened last week when he took one in.
I'm telling you right now that Reggie Slack had a real ugly flashback right there. He threw that ball out to the outside, and Jack Kellogg read the mail. He is there before the intended receiver, Dan Farthing. And I'm sure that Reggie Slack was a little nervous because, of course, we talked about it. Jack Kellogg took that one back last week versus the Riders.
Reggie can breathe a sigh of relief after that one touches the turf, I am sure. Goes to work again on second down. Over the middle, it's complete. It's Saunders picking up some speed. Excuse me, Sean Daniels across midfield. Daniels, some good speed to get it down to the Calgary 50-yard line, a gain of 33 yards.
Well, we talked about the great fans in Saskatchewan. A lot of them here tonight. They always make the trip to Calgary, and if you want to get tickets for Saskatchewan's next game versus Montreal, that's the number to call.
And the Riders have been playing some very entertaining football. Optimism reigning supreme after 3 games when they were 2-1, but they lost 3 straight heading into this one. And down again by 17 points. Slack, though, has them on the move again, throwing the other way. And that one is incomplete. Looking for first down yardage for Donald Narcisse at around the Calgary 40. It'll be second down.
Just one more point about the fans in Saskatchewan and Jim Daly. I asked him about the pressure. When you lose 3 in Saskatchewan in a row, the pressure is always on the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the starting quarterback. And, you know, he said, you know what, yes, there's lots of pressure on me, but you know what, I love the pressure, and there's coaches in this league who would love to have the same kind of pressure because the fans care in Saskatchewan about their football team.
Second and 10 for the Riders. Quick pass. Oh! Mike Saunders is caught by Daryl Hall.
Wow. Daryl Hall gives Mike Saunders the helicopter, and credit to Saunders for even getting up. It's called a hot pattern. You want to dump it off quickly, but it's got to be a little quicker than that. Daryl Hall puts the helmet right under the chin of Mike Saunders.
A linebacker's dream, I would think.
Oh, you read it perfectly. If you can read hot quickly, see that the quarterback's going to release it. See, if Reggie Slack pumps that, Mike Saunders is wide open down the seam. It's a gamble for Daryl Hall, but hey, came up 7s that time.
Sure did. Gamble pays off. And because of it, Saskatchewan is punting again. And this one is better. Terry Vaughn taking it inside the 10. A good angled punt by McCallum, and Saskatchewan hems Calgary deeper. We'll start from about their 20-yard line. Friday Night Football coming up. Adam Reedus, BC Lions, Jeff Reinbold, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and Reinbold and company looking for their first win of the season. BC sitting at 2-4 and hoping to move into a tie with the Edmonton Eskimos in the West. And you can get your tickets. The Bombers, BC Lions, 888-780-7328.
Interesting matchups in that game, of course. Joe Fleming, Maurice Kelly, former BC Lions, now playing for Winnipeg against their old team. So Sean Millington, another one.
Joe Fleming in a tie with Alfred Payton and also Joe Montford and Dwayne Patterson of the Green Riders with 8 sacks on the year heading into this week. The catch there by Aubrey Cummings for another Calgary first down. Getting a little breathing room. They start a little deeper than they're accustomed to the way this game has gone tonight.
Well, last week in the third quarter, Wally Buono saw his team lose a big lead. Saskatchewan got back into it, and it was in the third quarter, but a little bit of a different story tonight. Saskatchewan came back early in the third, but Calgary's offense responded with the big Calvin Anderson touchdown.
And really helping to diffuse the momentum on that touchdown by Anderson. Garcia off to the right, complete again. Vince Danielson, his great night continues. Another Stamps first down over the 40. Once again, here's Sherry Hargrave.
Thanks, Rod. As I said earlier, frustration for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, courtesy of their defense. Lots of yelling directed at the defense during halftime. They are, after all, sitting dead last in the league. The advice, start making defensive plays because the offense is taking care of their game. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Sherry. Yeah, they certainly are.
Well, that's truly what they need. They need someone to step up and make a big play, a fumble recovery, cause a fumble, come up with a big interception. That's what they're looking for. First and 10, gain of 13. And that catch by Danielson. Garcia to throw again. Why not? It's been working just about all night. Terry Vaughn on the receiving end that time, and that is close to moving the sticks again. Close to the 50-yard line of Calgary. You really have to credit the toughness of this receiving core for the Calgary Stampeders. I mean, with the exception of a couple of throws, they've been well covered downfield. They've taken some big hits and hung on to the football. A lot of those passes they've caught have come across the middle, and it's not easy to run across the middle. It's like a minefield in there sometimes.
Well, that was a gain of 9 the outside, so short yardage, and Garcia keeping it himself, and he does get another Calgary first down. This time the third quarter's not so bad for the Stamps. They hold their own. They lead by 16. Set back to CFL Live Control.
You're watching CFL Live, and we're at the quarter. Here's your host, James Duthie.
All right, welcome back. Well, the Riders tried to make Eric Tillman look smart. They did exactly what he said he needed to do at the halftime. They came out and got a big play. The problem is they didn't do anything after that, and Calgary took back the momentum, and they lead by 16. And, you know, first half all passing for the Stamps. We got to see a bit of their running game in the third quarter, Chris.
Well, the running game, and usually in football, the cliche is that you have to run the football in order to set up a passing game. Well, tonight it is the reverse. 326 yards at the end of the third quarter. That's remarkable. And really, this play by Calvin Anderson is based on the fact the substitutions coming in trying to take away that passing element. This is a very good call, a very good situation for Calgary, but it's really based on the efficiency of the first 3 quarters and how well they can pass the football. Eric, I like this play. It was a good call at the right time.
And Chris, let's give some credit to Calgary's offensive line. They've really done a nice job. Jamie Kreisdale's done a great job with the shotgun snap, and Garcia's hardly been touched, James.
All right, pretty good 3 quarters of action, especially if you are a Stampeder fan. They are in complete control. And if you're a Tiger Cat fan, well, a pretty good night for you as well, because your Tabbies are now 6-1. Archie Amerson, he caught a TD pass. He also threw one as the Ticats rolled over the Eskimos for the 2nd straight week. And the Owls beat the Argos. Anthony Calvillo now 2-0, filling in for Tracy Ham. 15 minutes left in our game. For fourth quarter action, let's send it back to Rod and Glenn.
Thank you, James. And because of that Hamilton victory over Edmonton, of course, these Stampeders, Glenn, looking for sole possession of first in the West.
Yeah, they're doing a nice job. I mean, really, Saskatchewan's offense, when you look at the numbers, are taking care of business. But a big night with Jeff Garcia. And look at the time of possession. Talked about the frustration on the Saskatchewan defense. Well, when you have the ball for 10 more minutes than your offense has, well, you get tired out there and it starts to build.
Curtis Mayfield, what a night he has had, although right now they're going to need more of that, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And he can look himself in the mirror and say that he did his job tonight. Couple catches, 108 yards, and the 2 touchdowns. And the second touchdown was after the injury, 47 yak yards. And a lot of those were after the injuries because it takes toughness to fight through those injuries, get back on the football field.
Riders not out of it, but the defense has to stand up now. They've had trouble with Garcia all day, and this time they have trouble with him running the football. Jeff Garcia, huge gain for another first down to the Saskatchewan 35.
Oh, they have so many weapons. I mean, there you talk about the secondary having frustration in the Rider defense, and then in this play, the secondary does their job. They cover down on all the receivers. Garcia has really no one to go to, and what does he do? Take off and run for big yardage. When you have that many weapons in the Calgary offense, it can make for a long night when you're playing on the defensive side of the football.
Emerging as an unknown from San Jose State and the backup to Doug Flutie and the heir apparent after Flutie went down with injury in the '95 season. Flutie came back to play in the Grey Cup that year at Taylor Field, but Garcia really made his name. He was the West MVP the next year. That one incomplete, intended for Vince Danielson.
Danielson is incomplete. Terrell Ulmer, number 2, with the defensive play. We got a great crowd tonight.
If you had to narrow it down to one thing, I'd say we have to try to minimize the impact Calgary's crossing routes have on our defense. They did a great job springing people open. It's a very tough skill to play against that offense. And if we can help in that area, curtail out a bit, I think it'll really help us. There's so many weapons in the Calgary offense, and they use them in many more ways than just crossing routes. But that is the one thing that really did hurt us last week.
Well, they were the words pre-game from Jim Daly. Well, you don't see it on that next completion to move the sticks. Glenn, as you talked about all night, that has been a problem.
Yeah, he talked about it in that interview about the crossing routes. And, you know, one thing when Travis Moore comes up with that catch, and crossing routes are tough to cover. I've talked about that, but they're also tough on receivers. You go in there and you get tattooed a couple of times, it makes it tough. And credit the toughness of this group in Calgary because they do a lot of it.
Get that ticket down.
They'll pay the price, but they've done a nice job tonight. The yardage proves that.
And 11 more yards adding to the passing total of Garcia. He'll throw again. He's got Travis Moore again down to the 20. A far more modest game by comparison, but it is nonetheless a pickup of 4 more yards as they inch closer again to that Saskatchewan end zone.
Well, you talk about Jeff Garcia in the year that he's having and fighting through some criticism from the fans. And, I mean, if Jeff Garcia keeps throwing the football and moving this team like he has to start the year, I mean, he has got to be the early front runner for the most valuable player in the league. Of course, last year runner-up to Doug Flutie. But this is a guy that's the front runner in my mind right now.
So 2nd and 6 for Calgary. Standing at his 30, another completion. Vince Danielson, and that is down to the 15.
You know, Rod, that's taking nothing away from Danny McManus, who's also having a great year, and Mike Pringle in Montreal. But Jeff Garcia, boy, when you look at his numbers over his 5-year career, I mean, record as a starter, 34 and 15. You can't ask for any more. Remember, in 1995, he was 25 years old, playing behind Doug Flutie, came in and set records as a rookie starting at quarterback.
And has, whether justifiable or not, been on both ends of a quarterback controversy. I think some people felt in 95 because Flutie had gone so long without playing because of the injury, but maybe Garcia, the way he was playing, should get more time even with Flutie back, although you had a feeling with Doug Flutie that wasn't going to happen. And now, as the incumbent, as the guy, Dave Dickinson comes in as a backup and plays very well, and this time he had to hear it from the other end. He's dealt with both situations, though, it seems very, very well. 1st and 10. And the Stamps and Garcia threatening again, sends them all out, but takes off again, has room up the middle, and gets so close, down inside the 1-yard line. A gain of 12 yards.
Well, he does everything so well. Throw the football, run the football, but the key is that he also makes good decisions. Down in the red zone, why force the ball down the field? You see that opening, take off and pick up as much as you can on your own. He takes a big hit, comes up with a big play. You know, Wally Wano had a pretty nice quarterback situation the last few years. I mean, the last 7 years, the best quarterback in the West has come from the Calgary Stampeders.
From Flutie to Garcia, and a touchdown for Kelvin Anderson. His 2nd of the night. The big lead has gotten bigger.
Well, that's 5 in the last 2 games.
The first one to string together back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons rushing for Calgary since 1980-81. And McLaughlin puts it through for the convert. And they've chalked up 40. And they lead by 23. Still lots of time to go here in the fourth. Go in for a touchdown and take the 23-point lead.
And that's their third scoring drive of the game that they hit double figures in plays. That's ball control.
It sure is, and it's capped off with a 1-yard run by Kelvin Anderson for his second touchdown of the game, and a 40-17 lead. It doesn't seem too long ago Saskatchewan had closed it to 8. It's been all Calgary since then, as it has been for much of this game. It's Profale Greer, the speedy returner of the flag down. He crosses the Saskatchewan 30-yard line.
Well, Kelvin Anderson got the touchdown on the last play, but Jeff Garcia did all the work on the key play of the drive. Garcia is going to go on the quarterback draw. Now, first of all, it's a good job up front, but then Dion Fox, who has to cover Kelvin Anderson, vacates the middle. That gives Garcia the open area. He takes a big hit at the end of the play, but gets it down on the 1, and then hands it to his running back, Kelvin Anderson, to punch it in for his second and 5 in 2 games. In fact, he now has 7 on the year, which puts him in a league. In the lead in the league. Easy for me to say.
The league leader.
Yeah.
Of course, I had some time to think that one out. Or else I'd be in trouble. No trouble for Garcia tonight, it seems. He's dealt with everything thrown at him and then some. Out of the shotgun. And you can expect to see a lot of this in the dying minutes of this game. Still some time. Dumped off to Sean Daniels. Takes it up to the 25-yard line. A gain of 7 for Saskatchewan.
Well, Kelvin Anderson, 5 in the last 2 games. We talk about the touchdown department, and this is what it looks like on the stat sheet. Kelvin Anderson was 7, 5 in the last 2 games. Curtis Mayfield added a couple tonight to his list. And Travis Moore and Ron Williams.
And that was, for Ron Williams, the way it was heading into this game. The fake and slack. No one to throw to. Tries to take off, and he's all wrapped up. Alondra Johnson. Jack Kellogg. They're there. He's down.
The reason that Reggie Slack had no one to throw to is because when he pulled out of there to get to the outside, it was a one-man pattern on the backside. Reggie Slack's going to take off. Now, what you want to do is try and influence the defense with the play-action fake. If you don't, you're in trouble, because now Slack just has one guy to throw to. It's Don Narcisse. He is double covered downfield. He has to take the hit.
Statistically, Slack has been having a good night, although he'd have none of that given the scoreboard. McCallum, not a bad punt this time. Terry Vaughn is actually Marvin Coleman taking it. Vaughn back there with him, and Coleman gets the return up to the 48-yard line. 45-yard punt for McCallum. His best of the night, and an 8-yard return. Calgary with the ball again, though. Vince Danielson, after a 100-yard game last week with a couple of catches. Good nights for Kelvin Anderson and Jeff Garcia as well.
Yeah, I think Garcia is the key. I mean, he has really done a super job in this football game, and he will be able to watch the rest.
This time, Dave Dickinson comes on in different circumstances. Garcia's not hurt. They're just leading big, and the Montana product, adored by the fans here, a great backup quarterback, comes in and airs it out right away. Oh, nearly caught by Vince Danielson down by the 30. Hey, they're not shy about it, are they?
No, and I think it's a good decision by Wally Buono. I mean, great game by Jeff Garcia. And you want to keep both quarterbacks sharp. To keep them sharp, they have to have playing time. Jeff Garcia opened up the Saskatchewan defense big way, and he'll ask Dave Dickinson to sew up the gaping wound.
And he's running with the football, too, and a couple of big runs to set up touchdowns, just like that last one to Kelvin Anderson. 70 yards rushing. Reggie Slack had been the renowned rushing quarterback heading into this game. He had over 100 yards against Calgary last week, but this time the flags go down again. It's been Garcia. Stumped off to Anderson by Dickinson. They play on, and he gets close to first down yardage, but yes, there is a flag on the field.
There's a situation, too, where you don't want to get any starters hurt. When you're up this this much, I mean, you want to put the other players in, give them some playing time. Dave Dickinson obviously proves that he could start on a lot of teams, but we'll start to see a lot of the backups.
As Jim Daly looks on, and time running out, 8:08 to go on the Stadium clock.
Saskatchewan 99. Penalties decline. Third down.
Need to know what's going on? Need the scores and highlights? You got it. Sports Desk, Darren Detition, Dave Randor. Tonight, 2 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific time. Mention the PGA Championship underway. A lot of the baseball, and get your CFL highlights too. 3 games going on in Week 7 tonight.
You're going to have enough time to show all the touchdowns for Calgary? I don't know.
We're going to have to extend that highlight back a little bit. We'll talk about extension. I think Calgary, even with Dave Dickinson at the helm, doesn't seem to make a difference in terms of ball control. They're moving it again. That is a first down. The Stamps are just going to eat up a whole lot of clock right now. This, perhaps, is a remarkable stat, the most remarkable. 31 first downs for Calgary compared to only 8 for Saskatchewan.
Unbelievable. Jim Daly, I mean, you'll look at the game film at the end of the day and say, offensively, you know what, we did not a bad job, but we just didn't have enough opportunities.
Dickinson out of the shotgun and handing off. And Kelvin Anderson with the carry for some short yardage. Actually gets about 5 yards on the play.
Remember, these are divisional games. This is the West against the West, and when you win a divisional game, it's 4-pointer. A little separation between you and the pack for the Calgary Stampeders. The last 2 games, it's been 8 points. 2 they get, the 2 Saskatchewan didn't get.
And these 2 teams will face each other twice more in late September, late next month. No flags go down. Yes, a flag finally does go down. Looked like early movement there in Calgary. Receivers getting an extra jump, or maybe the ball was late being snapped.
Now, you see this a little bit when the quarterback changes because he has different cadence. Tough to win the second half of the home-and-home series.
Saskatchewan 99. Second down repeated.
I'm mistaken. So it is a Saskatchewan penalty. Ernie Brown, the ex-Stampeder, getting called on that one. And yes, you're right. It had been tough.
Yeah.
I think, for these 2 winning the second of the home-and-home. Last year they split in their...
The key is to win the first one when you're on the road, and Calgary did that last week.
Dickinson, the keeper, straight up and more. Down to the 25. Another Calgary first down.
Dickinson is sneaky quick. I mean, when you look at him on the field, he doesn't look like he can run real well, but he sure surprises the defensive backs when he takes off. Ryan Carey just holding on for dear life, or Dickinson's still running.
Garcia is clearly deserving of being number 1. Maybe the best quarterback in the CFL going right now, but Dickinson has really made it interesting when he plays. He plays so well, and so does Kelvin Anderson. Down for more. First down yardage for Calgary.
Well, this is another new play in the Calgary offense, one I haven't seen, and I'm sure Saskatchewan hasn't seen. Watch how he kind of sidearms this, a little bit of a rugby toss to the outside to Kelvin Anderson. Something the Saskatchewan defense definitely hasn't seen on film yet. Throwing in a few wrinkles. George Cortez, the offensive coordinator for the Calgary Stampeders, has done a nice job of game planning, obviously with the big numbers Jeff Garcia put on the board. That's the proof.
It had been Garcia until this drive. It's Dickinson now, and the results so far have been the same, with Calgary moving the football and Alan Pitts moving it down inside the Saskatchewan 5.
It's interesting because George Cortez, when I talked to him yesterday, and he was saying that, you know, it's tough to game plan for the same team the second week because you want to stay with the stuff that you do well. You don't want to get too crazy and change everything up just because you're playing the same team, but you do want to throw in a couple of wrinkles, a couple of different looks, and he's done a nice job of doing that. One of the big reasons they've had that success is Alan Pitts.
And another remarkable string continues his 52nd career 100-yard game. The all-time leader. Danielson. Keeping it. Touchdown. Excuse me, Dave Dickinson, of course, and they're getting them in every Dickinson did. All I can say is I'd be out of breath too. It'd take less than that as Dickinson stays in to hold it for Mark McLaughlin. And yet another point after try. And yet another one good. Well, all Calgary. And this time it's Dickinson's turn. Garcia was so good, Dickinson got a crack at it, and he made good as well, taking that one in for a touchdown. And now I wonder, could they be going to the third stringer, Glenn?
Oh, yeah. Well, this one's over. I think we're going to go to the third and fourth if there is one.
Vince Danielson used to be quarterback.
Yeah, and likely on the other sideline, Reggie Slack will probably sit down as well. I mean, this one's out of hand.
30-point game as it's kicked off and down to the 20. And Profile Greer runs into his own man and is down about the 32-yard line. Heading into this game, both offenses were great, but one is clearly superior based on this game.
Well, yeah, it's bragging rights. Look, first and second all the way down. It just kind of flops as you go down the list there. And then look at tonight's numbers. Things quite a bit different. Calgary dominated in every single category on the list, including time of possession. The Stampeders have owned the football tonight. They've had it so far for 36 minutes, 21 seconds, opposed to Saskatchewan's 18 minutes. It's dominance.
And Heath Rylance, who's only taken a couple of plays this year and missed all of last year. And he hands off to Mike Saunders. Heath Rylance in his fourth year, but as mentioned, did not play at all in 1997.
In 1996, he was injured and took a while to come back from it. Had a bit of a concussion.
He steps up now under pressure, and he is down shy of the first down.
Playing a game against Montreal and Taylor Field, Heath Rylance got hit on it, suffered the concussion, and took a while to come back, but he beat out Kevin Mason this year for the backup role. That's where the battle was. Reggie Slack was the starter from day one in training camp, and says that's part of the reason he's been successful this year, that he didn't always have to look over his shoulder at the backup quarterback. Jim Daly said from day one, you're the man, and he's responded well. Steve Sarkisian, you see number 12 just walked in front of the screen there. He is the third quarterback. Heath Rylance beat out Kevin Mason for the second spot.
It's funny, you look at Reggie Slack's numbers and you think, why is he so down if you just look at those numbers? Got to look at the scoreboard. Tells a much different story, although Slack hasn't had that bad a night. Relying a lot on the big plays here in the punt return. Up around the 34-yard line, Terry Vaughn returning that Paul McCallum punt. Not a fun night for Jim Daly. Saskatchewan's on its way to losing 4 straight.
Well, we talked about the Stampeders' keys, what they needed to do to win the football game. They definitely got number 1. Stop Reggie Slack, only had 2 yards rushing. Number 2 was a bit of a problem for him. Mayfield did have a couple of big plays, but the offense for Saskatchewan really didn't have a lot of opportunities. They only got the ball half the time, and discipline. They were the most penalized team coming into the game. Only 4 tonight for 10 yards.
But did they ever shut down Reggie Slack's running game? Speaking of running, this guy's had a pretty good night of it. Now just relaxing on the sideline.
Yeah, well, he's really done a number on that Rider secondary, which, of course, is coached by Richie Hall, who's up in the booth, and we'll have to go back to the drawing board. We talked about the matchups of great receiving corps for the Calgary Stampeders up against that secondary, and Greg Marshall and Richie Hall will have to go back and look at it. Trying to figure out a way to stop them. They play each other 2 more times.
A long night that is winding down. Under 3 minutes to go as Kelvin Anderson takes the handoff from Dickinson. Picks up about 5 yards on the play. 2 touchdowns tonight. 3 touchdowns last week.
Interesting story about Kelvin Anderson. I mean, he's on pace right now to have his 3rd consecutive 1,000-yard season. Only 3 other Stampeder running backs have done that. James Sykes, Lavelle Coleman, and Earl Lunsford. Interestingly enough, Kelvin Anderson's nickname in college was Earthquake. That was also Lunsford.
Oh, a couple of earthquakes. Lunsford later a GM in Calgary, but Anderson caused quite an earthquake, and that rumble that really changed the momentum in the third quarter. And having a good night on the ground, averaging 7.8 yards a carry, much of it, of course, in that long run for the touchdown.
Well, he had a couple of touchdowns last week catching the football. I mean, getting it done. 2 years ago, the nominee for Rookie of the Year for the Calgary Stampeders, had a big season, over 1,000 yards. And then last year again, 1,000 yards, when he finished with 1,088. And right now he's on pace to have his personal best, about 1,200 on the season.
My question is, he's 205, he's Earthquake. Fred Childress is 345. What's his nickname? They actually do call him Big Chill, playing up front for the Stamps. Be like Earthquake 2. Profile Greer waits and then gets the no yards call.
Waits and draws the flag.
Down at the 25-yard line. On a 44-yard punt for Tony Martino. And Heath Rylance talking things over now with Cal Murphy before he heads out on the field.
Well, it's a good decision by the coaching staff to put Heath Rylance in. You never know down the season. There's a lot of football to be played. The Saskatchewan Roughriders definitely have a team that in the last 3 losses played well enough to win, but didn't come up with the big plays when they needed it. They're not out of it by any means. You never know when you're going to need your backup quarterback, so I think it's a good decision by Jim Daly to get him some playing time.
Saskatchewan started after beating the Edmonton Eskimos in Week 3, 28-14. They went to 2-1. Optimism justifiably reigning supreme, I would think, in Regina especially, after going to the Grey Cup last year. But since then, it's been 4 straight losses if you count this one, heading that way under 2 minutes to go. Big run here from Mike Saunders. Cross midfield. Saunders taken out of bounds inside the Calgary 40 by number 92, Steve Anderson.
Well, Mike Saunders, you know, when the game's out of hand, you always wonder, and you watch the game film to find out who's still going hard, who has enough professional pride, who will not give it up when they're down. A lot of guys will just take it easy and kind of cruise through the rest of the game, but you can see that Mike Saunders is still giving it.
Big first down on the 46-yard gain for Saunders. 1:53 on the clock. Out of the shotgun. Rylance looking deep. Caught. Touchdown. Donald Narcisse. Another catch. Another step closer, and this one's for a major.
He has been their leading receiver. So obviously, we talked about him chasing Ray Algard's records. On pace for a 1,500-yard season. And again, another veteran that's still working hard, despite the big deficit.
And I'm not implying this was the intention, but with the game out of reach as it is, why not try to give him a few more catches?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I seriously doubt that was the intention, but hey, why not throw it up there and see if you can come up with the catch, which you did.
And that was his 3rd catch of the night, bringing him to within 9 of breaking Ray Algard's record.
Well, this is just a good all-around football play. Heath Rylance takes it from the shotgun, and it's one-on-one with Don Narcisse on William Hampton. Hampton has won his share of this battle throughout the football game, and this time Narco does a nice job of a subtle little push and then really stretch out for that football to the outside. So 8 to tie and 9 to pass Ray Algard, who will likely be in Taylor Field next week for that game. And he'll need a big one unless he catches a couple more, but he'll need like a double-figure game in catches to break the record. But
he had a good start to the season. And his total heading into the game was 42 receptions. However, he has only had 5 in the last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, he has had a great start. I mean, here's a guy that after 6 games had 3 100-yard games plus, so he's still getting it done. Not tremendous speed, but one of the best route runners you'll ever see, and the softest hands in the business. If it's out there and he can touch it, he'll catch it.
That one from Rylance was up there to be touched, and it was caught for another Saskatchewan touchdown, but still far behind on the short kick, and the Riders have the football. And it's Chris Sarka, backup running back, who comes up with the ball. So let's see what Rylance can do now. 47-24. 23 points and 1:46 to go.
Well, Cal Murphy and Jim Daly know that they can't win this football game, but what they can do is get Heath Rylance and their offense a couple more chances to go out there and execute plays and try and get better. Now it becomes sort of another practice for them.
If we're to presume the final score will be the current score, this is how the 4 straight shake up. It all began losing to the BC Lions when the Lions looked down and out, 25-20, and then they got whipped at Iberwin Stadium by the Tiger Cats and then losing to the Stampeders last week.
You look at that, 93 points given up in the last 2 games by that defense.
Out of the shotgun. And it's caught. And it's fumbled. And it's recovered by Calgary. Well, Don Narcisse, sorry, Glenn. Don Narcisse made the catch but coughed it up.
Well, you know, it's amazing, actually. I was looking through the fact book, and Don Narcisse, in his 800, where are we now? 800. I'm losing count.
We're over 800.
We're over 800. In all those catches, has only fumbled the ball 5 times.
That is remarkable.
Well, let's make it 6. Now, this will count as a catch and then a fumble. And you know what? When Ray Elgard broke the record, he fumbled it on the same catch.
That's right, as you pointed out when we saw you looking on the sidelines. But, you know, it's not the way he wants it to go in the books, but it is another catch for him. And Kelvin Anderson, after the first turnover of the game. So if nothing else, well executed by the offenses from that standpoint. Only 1 turnover. Anderson taking it up. Gain of about 5 yards.
All right, you make a good point, because we have seen some sloppy football games early in the year, but it seems now that the offenses around the league are starting to bear down a little bit. They're getting used to each other in the huddle, and both teams offensively played pretty well. We talked about the lopsided time of possession statistic, but had Calgary's offense, or excuse me, Saskatchewan's offense with Cal Murphy had more chances out there on the football field, we likely would have a lot closer game.
The game story at McMahon Stadium tonight, early on especially, Vince Danielson. Alan Pitts also had a good one, but Danielson a couple of TDs. And Kelvin Anderson, Jeff Garcia didn't need to finish off this game because it was so brilliant through the first 3 quarters.
Mayfield did his part, but too big a mountain to climb. You know, guys that definitely don't get enough credit. We always talk about the head coaches and decisions they make, but the coordinators don't get enough credit when things go well. I don't think that George Cortez could have asked for a better execution from his offensive game plan implemented during the week.
Nothing seemed to go wrong.
I ask him always about the quarterback controversy that sort of was brewing here a couple of weeks ago between Dickinson and Jeff Garcia. And, you know, he just gives me this big grin. Like, he is the happiest coach in the business when he looks on his bench and sees a guy like Dave Dickinson who he's talking to, and he looks out on the field and maybe the best in the game right now, and Jeff Garcia is throwing the ball. A nice situation for the Calgary Stampeders to be in.
Well, it's tonight in the East or tomorrow night in the West. Either way, it's Friday night, Adidas Friday Night Football. I know Glenn will be there. And BC is playing Winnipeg, Adam Rita's Lions, and Jeff Reinbold's struggling Blue Bombers at 0-6, trying for that first win. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, and our third quarterback for the Stampeders tonight. Dickinson's out. Henry Burris is in. They're all getting some work in what has been a blowout. And he throws on his first play, and he finds a man. Another backup, Andre Arlane, product of St. Francis Xavier. And in Ganesh, Nova Scotia, Andre Arlane, like Aubrey Cummings, another great receiver that came out of the Atlantic Football Conference in CIU play and went to the Vanier Cup, one of the best receivers in CIU back in 1996. You talk about the good receivers they have right now, Glenn, but a couple more coming up, a couple of Canadians that could keep this going for a few years.
Yeah, when you look at Arlane and then Cummings, you know, they replaced Dave Sapunjas with Danielson, but no one thought about replacing Danielson. Well, they thought about it this year and brought in two pretty good receivers.
They certainly did as Anderson takes the ball, and you saw the total yardage there approaching the 600 mark. With the third quarterback in, and that total just keeps on getting higher and higher, now under a minute to play. Those numbers, magnificent for that Calgary offense, and hardly shameful for Saskatchewan, although they tend to thrive on the big play, but 570. Clock ticking with half a minute to go. Burris under pressure, gets out of it. Still throws. Incomplete. Intended for Travis Moore down at the 23.
Well, they are very high on Henry Burris. I mean, you talk to the coaching staff in Calgary, they'll tell you that they have a good one in the making in Henry Burris. And, boy, it's awful nice when you can be behind two good quarterbacks and two real smart quarterbacks that can teach you how it works and what to look at and what you're reading down the field. And, of course, Henry Burris, who smashed all the records at Temple, has a lot of ability, can run the football, has a strong arm, and he's going to have a couple of pretty good teachers to bring him along in the Canadian Football League.
And if he turns out to be as good as perhaps expected, could this be maybe a case like Edmonton had back in the mid-'80s, I believe, with Matt Dunnigan and Damon Allen and this other guy, the third stringer? What was his name? Ham.
Yeah, Tracy somebody.
Ham. I don't know what happened to him. Edmonton knows about having the riches at quarterback. Calgary certainly knows that feeling now. McLaughlin on the field goal attempt is just wide. As Profile Greer tries to run it out and gets buried around the goal line.
And if you're Profile Greer, you're saying, that is something I really didn't need at this stage in the football game. Game is over. Time's almost expired, and you got to deal with this. Wow, man. Well, it'd be fun for Calgary to watch on the special teams film, and I think the headache for Profile Greer will just start again tomorrow in the film room.
It could be headaches all around, even for those that don't take it on the noggin. All they got to do is turn around and look at the scoreboard and realize with 13 seconds left, they're on their way to their fourth straight loss. After being 2-1, Greer takes it, so he takes another lick. Got to give it to Profile Greer. He's certainly out there taking them anyway.
Well, the province will be tightening down the bolts on the pressure cooker in Saskatchewan as they drop to 2-5. Calgary takes over full possession of first place in the West, and BC, and the Lions have struggled early, but they're definitely not out of it in Winnipeg tomorrow night.
As Saunders takes the quick pass, gets some yardage up to the 15 for all the early pressure on the Lions and Adam Rita. Clock winds down. Some pressure now on Jim Daly in Saskatchewan as they do indeed lose their fourth straight. And for now anyway, pending the outcome of tomorrow's game on our air, BC and Winnipeg, last place in the West, Wally Buono, sole possession of first with a record of 5-2. As Calgary wins tonight and Edmonton loses, handshakes around there. Jeff Garcia, saw Reggie Slack earlier. Stampeders dominate. Full measure for a 23-point win, 47-24.